Guys, we have more quote unquote artists trying to pretend being an artist by using AI on TikTok. A couple things. One, why am I covering so many TikTok AI artist fakers right now? It's because TikTok is potentially going to get banned. So I'm just trying to cover as much as we can before it goes out. Secondly, real quick, people get mad at me for me calling it AI art, AI artist. It's just because, like, as a YouTuber, I want my videos to hit in the search algorithm, and I do not believe people who use AI is an artist. I do not also believe it's art. But because of, like, the way wording works, if I put AI slop in the title, people won't search for it as well. It won't hit as well with the art community because it doesn't, it's like YouTube strategy, okay? I need to put the word artist in there, in the title, whatever, so it comes up in the search so you guys can find it. I don't think AI stuff is art or like people who use AI are artists. Okay, but getting the elephant out of the room, now let's get into the video. Sorry, that was rambling. So we have this video, and this video is posted by Cowboy8295. This was a month ago in December.
I think I found an AI artist. The oranges are off, and the signature in the bottom is weird, like the holes in each one. As first I was like, okay, fair. So I looked a little more at the account. Quick look here. She claims the signature isn't blurred and that it's in Filipino. But I tried looking through the alphabet and nothing came up that looks similar. Apart from the second
Also,
letter.
the weird middle stem looks funky.
This one looked fine. I couldn't find too much in it. But this caught me off guard. I know TT ruins quality of images if you have a low quality phone. But what?
Here's my references for its alphabet.
By the way, I just gotta say, okay, the voice is so funny, and that video was how I came across this account, right? So I just wanted to show that. I'm just gonna say, guys, I am not Filipino. I have Filipino friends, and Tagalog uses the English alphabet, okay? Writing in Filipino is wild. Let me just show you, okay, what they were trying to claim. Like, this is what they claim to be written in Filipino, right? The signature isn't blurred, it's just in a different language. I'm Filipino. That is written in AI, okay? I feel like just hearing the phrasing written in Filipino is just wild to me. Anyways, let's just look into this account, okay? The account is called Dawn. Again, disclaimer, guys, don't send hate to this person. Don't send hate to this, whatever. Honestly, I think they're just freaking bored. Look, like when you were 16, sometimes you just don't have things to do. I may suggest you find a part-time job. I may suggest you find friends. I guess some people resort to pretending to be an artist online with AI art. I don't recommend doing that one, but your choice, right? I even think Roblox is a better alternative than that. But this is their very first post on December 1st, and it says, support a new artist. Then they show their art in quotes. And this is definitely AI. This is AI in a different form, right? We don't often see a lot of like quote unquote realism AI. But look, man, we could maybe make the argument potentially that you are experimenting with like realism, but you're trying to draw some like funky stuff, you know? But I don't think that's the case here, right? And again, like I always say, okay, the things that I'm going to point out, I'm going to be like, this looks like AI, this looks like AI. Guys, I am referring to everything together. Full context, when you put everything together, we look at multiple art pieces and the history of the artist. This is why it's AI. If you like to draw realism and you like to draw funky looking things that don't exist in reality, good for you. That's fun. You're experimenting, okay? I'm just going to point out stuff that looks like AI and stuff in their other artwork that will then make it reminiscent as to why this is AI to me. Breaking down this piece, one, we have an orange with a stem that connects to grapes that look like blueberries. That does not make any sense. Again, I don't think I need to tell you. I think even 5-year-olds could understand that oranges and grapes do not grow on the same tree. Just biologically speaking, it doesn't work that way. This orange does look like somebody took a pencil and then intimately shoved it into the center of the orange, but maybe they were going for that look. These blueberries look weird. They look weird. There's the stem just like going straight into the blueberries like that. They're also like all the same color, which I guess you chose. That's like an artistic choice, I suppose. The shadows from the blueberries are also odd. You're telling me you can draw this level of realism, but you can't get like reasonable looking blueberry shadows on the orange. I don't know, right? And the big thing too is, again, we have like words into the table that the fruits are sitting on, but they're not actually words because AI, and when it comes to like writing English, it just fucks it up a lot of times. And this is giving AI for all of those irregularities as it is. But again, right, we look at all the pieces in context. They have this post, support a new artist. And here we have a piece of a girl eating a dongo. And this is written in Filipino. The signature isn't blurred. It's just in a different language. I'm Filipino. This piece is again giving AI. What is this shadow here on the leaf, right? It kind of looks like there's like a smudge on my monitor, but it's not me. It's the art piece. It's giving the same like fake semi-realism vibes or like fake realism vibes that was going on. The signature is a big giveaway as well. Along with like, again, other oddities in the piece. There's just lines on this piece. This is not dirt on my monitor. There's just lines. Why are there lines? Unless it's like heavily edited or something. Like you see the line here, the line here, the line here, the line here, and there's just blobs. There's like a blob of blue here. It just doesn't add up. You don't paint a background like that. You just paint it with one color and then add your shadows or whatever. And then we have this one. Artist follow artist. All right, we got Chicken Little. They have their flower. They have the really wonky looking fruits. Then they have the tulips. And this tulip piece is definitely a little bit suspicious to me. It could potentially be passed off as like an actual piece. I don't know, right? It's a little bit odd. The first thing that kind of throws me off is with all of these pieces, all of these like hyper realistic pieces, they're very low res. They look a little bit fuzzy, as if I were to zoom in, it would get pixelated instantly. And you could make an argument, oh, maybe like the artist just uploaded a low res photo so people don't steal it. That could be an option. But it also can be indicative of AI. That's one. But this piece is a little bit odd because like there are way too many leaves to match up with tulips. If you guys have tulips, have had tulips, have had seen a tulip in your life, they don't have very many leaves. That's just not how tulips work. So it's just the leaf to bulb ratio is very off here. 1, 2, we just kind of have like a tulip eating another tulip over here. That's a little lovely. The kind of behavior of the stems and the leaves don't add up because typically it's like a stem and then you get like 2 leaves, maybe 3, maybe 1, right? But like some of the leaves just don't have any attaching stem to it. We have 2 leaves and a stem here, and then 2 more leaves, and then what? And then 2 more leaves again here, like these 2 leaves behind it with no tulip. Here we have a leaf and then what looks to be a stem, right? It looks like it melted over the leaf and it's like snaking back up to a non-existent tulip. Doesn't add up to me. This final one is the nail in the coffin. If none of the other pieces feel like AI to you, this is most definitely AI. Let's take a look at what is drawn first off, okay? Here we have a lawn chair. Here we have I guess a bed or whatever. It's either extremely poor artwork or it's AI, right? Because here we have a bed, like that is in a straight on perspective on the left side and then an angle to like an isometric perspective on the other side. I mean, I guess that could be possible in some aspects. Then what is this? Is this an acorn on top of a U? And then we have a door with like 2 nubs coming out of the door. We have whatever the hell this is. This looks a little inappropriate. I don't know what that's supposed to be. Then we have a rocking ladder because for God knows what, you're going to want a ladder that also has like rocking feet so you can go and increase your fear of heights when you climb on top of it. And the biggest thing I want you guys to note are the sketch lines. Okay, these are supposed to be sketches. Why does it look like your nephew like scribbled all over this? These are not sketches you use to make furniture. It's like all wobbly. Like these sketch lines don't make any sense. There's just a line completely cutting across this block for some reason. Here you're drawing what looks to be, again, this is the ottoman, right? Why is the sketching box that maybe like sketch a frame in it, you draw in it, so much smaller than the actual ottoman? And now here we have the chair with, again, like lines that don't add up to it. But if that doesn't even seal the deal for you, I think our pencil can seal the deal, you know? Here we have a pencil, but it's also a pen, something on the bottom. Or what about the notebook? Right? This is a spiral notebook, but look where the spiral is, all the way on the left side. I don't think I need to explain to you how a spiral notebook works, guys. It should be in the middle of the spine, not all the way over here. I think this can conclude. Dawn writes, I work in interior design if you couldn't tell, ha 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 ha. And all of this was all posted on the same day, December 1st. And after that, the account has not been active since. You won't believe how this artist was caught for tracing AI. So this is posted on Twitter by Twitter user Space Ghosts. Space Ghost writes, my experience with Haku Yuan and generative AI tracing / referencing. Please note this is my experience and this is all I have proof of. A Google Doc was dropped and the doc reads, howdy, I hate to be making this document, but it seems a lot easier than making a Twitter thread. And as many people that I know have commissioned this person, I want to bring awareness to this fact. The artist in question is Haku Yuan, and at this moment, their region has been closed. And at the point of the document, Haku had done 119 commissions. Space Ghost adds that their only proof of tracing or AI referencing is their own, and that they have no evidence of this happening to other works. So the what? Last May, I put in a request for Haku to draw my redesign and was really excited to be accepted as they appeared to have a good track record, and it was their first redesign illustration. This was the illustration they were going to announce their redesign with. Everything seemed pretty normal, and they got sketches to choose from, and they asked for small adjustments, which in hindsight, their avoidance of editing the things I asked was likely due to their dependence on the AI image they were referencing. So Haku had sent over 2 sketches, and Haku writes, "Hi, the draft is ready. I made A and B 2 versions. If you're not happy with both, please let me know which one's better so I can fix it in that direction. A is sitting in a laundromat, B is sitting in a washing machine, with the middle being a window to cityscape." Space Ghost adds, "Good afternoon. I'm a bit torn, so I'm gonna think on it for a little while. Are you comfortable if I draw over one for an idea?" Haku agrees, and Space Ghost sends over the redraw with like some little accessories in the corner. And then Space Ghost says that they love A and they want to shift it down a little bit and add some clutter with some examples, and they give Haku the creative freedom. And Haku adds, "Yep, totally understand you're hoping for a more detailed and lively scene. I can promise once the piece is finished, there's gonna be no area left completely empty, and even the floor will have reflections and shadows." And they assure that, the sketch is normally a little simpler and things are going to look more filled in with the final illustration, and that they were going to add neon lights to the top of the washing machine. So Space Ghost says, "Yep, sounds great. I appreciate the clarifications. I think the neon lights would look excellent." And then Haku sends over a colored draft. And Space Ghost writes, "I got the colored draft back and thought there were a few things that were kind of off. I suggested beer bottles, a Game Boy, and some plants." And as you can see in the illustration, none of that was present. So there's kind of what looks to be like cleaning bottles and a laundry basket in the corner as clutter, but maybe benefit of doubt, Haku was using some artistic freedom here. And Space Ghost writes, "I took it as them wanting to stick to their vision. I feel pretty silly for this now. I asked for some minor changes, adding the parts of the hair they had missed, as well as changing the word woman to onion." So again, if you look at the neon sign, one of the washing machines says air wash, and one of the other ones says woman. Space Ghost writes, "I got the finished version a few days later. I was so excited leading up to this. I think all my friends could attest to me showing off the draft and explaining my plans to print it off and use it to announce my new design at Offkai, which is a convention for VTubers, which was a really important thing to me. This was going to be essentially the key image to the entire rebrand." And then here we can see the finished illustration. So the neon sign that said woman has now been changed to onion, and then controller was added. Space Ghost writes, "Because I had asked for commercial rights, after fees and all, I spent $420 on this image. I'm grateful for my partners at RCJCL Ventures because this is not something I could normally afford to do on top of all the other stuff I have coming. The delivery. I asked for the Photoshop file so I could make merch with the contents. So when the commission had been delivered just in time for Offkai, I was excited to get it printed and maybe try and get a few quick physical things for promo to give away. So I opened the Photoshop and found, well, they hadn't deleted the images they traced over from my commission from the Photoshop file. What in a smoking gun?" Look, don't send hate to any parties involved, okay? But normally when it comes to making like callouts and stuff about people who have used AI, you don't have a smoking gun. You have a lot of evidence that points to it with like 99% certainty. And you're like, okay, well, with all of this evidence, we can say basically without a shred of doubt that you've used AI, but there is no full on 100% smoking gun. The AI image that was traced over, which is this one, being in the Photoshop file. I mean, come on, it's like 1-to-1. Also, I don't know what my son is doing back here, but this is literally 1-to-1. As in, if you look at it, the sticker, everything is the same in the back. The outfit is basically the same. Like, it has barely been changed. It kind of just looks like they put a filter over the AI stuff in the background and just called it a day. Like, this is just something. And the fact that Space Ghost paid $420 for something that they expected to be hand illustrated. This isn't even a paint over. This is just like a filter and like a couple things were marginally changed. Hey, hey, stop eating the flowers, bro. Bruh. So the second screenshot added in the document is the Photoshop file itself, where the files look to be labeled in Chinese. It's a little bit too small for me to read the characters, but you can see here, it looks like there's just cutouts, right? It looks like this is like a cutout of like a torso or the leg that's been traced over. Space Ghost writes, "To say that my stomach dropped is kind of an understatement, as at that point, I sent the finished image to all my friends. I was so excited. And then suddenly, I was just deeply embarrassed. My plans to reveal the design at Offkai were quickly dashed. I had a bit of a crash out, thinking I was at $420. Then it's like, how do I tell people about this without just showing it and ruining the design reveal entirely? I reported them to VGen and the staff immediately agreed that the evidence was cut and dry. The staff asked them to provide a time lapse, and instead the artist, to their credit, admitted to what they have done and offered me a refund immediately. I assumed they realized shortly after delivery what they had done and just been waiting for me to notice. Their account on VGen is closed as of right now, and I don't know if it will ever be reopened. I would like to also restate that I only have proof that my image was traced or referenced. I can't speak to others, and I would encourage those who have commissioned them before to reach out to them. And this is the final message Haku had sent Space Ghost. So Haku writes, of course, I've already issued the refund, and transferring money takes 3 to 5 days. I don't have control over the exact refund amount, so if the transaction fee isn't returned, let me know and I'll cover the difference myself. I want to sincerely apologize to you again. Using AI to avoid parts I struggle to draw was a serious mistake, and I deeply regret the hurt and trouble it caused you. I've decided to stop accepting commissions for a year so I can reflect on my actions and focus on improving my skills. I'm truly sorry once again. To Haku Yuan. I decided to wait until after the convention to post this, as I've had enough on my plate without this, but I'm sure you expected something like this, and I had hoped you would maybe have gotten in front of it and posted your own apology or explanation. Instead, you continued to post art and said nothing about the situation, and removed the no AI from your profile, which felt particularly ironic. I don't understand why you did it. You can clearly draw. You clearly have the skill set to do so. Instead, you let one mistake ruin your entire reputation when you knew that would happen if it were to be found out. I hope you're true to your word and don't accept commissions while you work on yourself. I hope you're honest with those you've scammed, because you did scam them, and refund them whatever you charged. I will at least give you the benefit of doubt and look forward to that progress. I was so upset that my plans were seemingly ruined, but I would like to make a special mention of my wonderful and fantastic best friend Izzy, and their handle on Twitter is Silphy, so Cilphyy, who was so incredibly angry on my behalf that powered by Enrage turned out an illustration for me to use at Offkai for the reveal. Thank you, same day printing service. Wow, that is a goat of a best friend. And this is an amazing illustration. Look at this. In the end, this illustration felt more me, and having the work of somebody I care about be what reveals the next step to everyone is everything to me. So if you got a postcard at the fan meetup, found one on the business card exchange, some of them with a little gift attached, or had one given to you by me, you now know it was made with love and a lot of effort at her own sacrifice. So thank you, Izzy. Thank you all for reading, and sorry that it had to be such a bummer, but I'm over it. I have great friends and great times ahead. And Space Ghost adds in the comments, I don't mention it in the doc, but this situation had me in tears more than once from the stress it's caused me. It sucks. Don't do this to people. If I wanted a $420 traced AI image, I could do that myself. Another commenter 399 writes, wow, the fact you caught it from a slip up like that is crazy. Thank God, because Izzy's Rage redesign is incredible. Sylphie is the best. I'm happy you got a refund without too much hassle. This sort of thing is gonna keep happening. It's wildly depressing. And then Haku put out a couple of statements, so they changed their Twitter bio to read, for now, I've decided the most sincere way I can take responsibility is to delete this account. I know I've disappointed many people, and maybe longer. And they quote retweeted Space Ghost post with a graphic that reads, personal apology. I want to sincerely apologize to everyone affected by the recent situation, especially to Ran. In one of my illustrations, I used AI-generated imagery as a reference because I was frustrated I couldn't draw what I imagined. In a moment of weakness and poor judgment, I took a shortcut I deeply regret. I feel truly ashamed for letting myself, my clients down. This was a one-time mistake. I've always tried to create with honesty and care, which makes this even harder to admit. I am truly sorry for breaking your trust. I have ensured that Rand received a full refund, and as a step to make amends. Due to financial difficulties after recently repaying a loan, I'm unable to offer additional refunds, and I understand if this disappoints anyone. I'm very sorry for any frustration this causes. If you feel uneasy or need proof, I'm willing to provide whatever I can to help restore your trust. I will be stepping back from commissions for now to deeply reflect and improve myself, not just as an artist, but as a person. Thank you for reading. And the replies to that are kind of mixed. So here we have a commenter, Vien Constel, writing, I truly have to say I'm hurt and disappointed. Not only do I love your work and look up to you, but I'm also hoping to commission you again after receiving my first piece from you. But I truly believe you'll work on yourself. I believe you'll do better and repair the trust again. And Haku writes, I'm truly sorry for the unpleasant memories I've caused. I hope that once my name fades away, you'll be able to look at the artwork on its own, without any bitterness attached. Other commenters, Hazumi writes, Hi Haku, I would love proof if possible. Seeing Rand's piece be pretty much traced over is heartbreaking. The piece I commissioned is one of my absolute favorites, and it crushes me thinking it might have had AI assisting it. I'd love to put my mind at ease. And Rocky Kazuki writes, Hello, I commissioned you for cover art. Although it's lovely, I have some suspicions. I would really love to see proof of whether or not the piece is traced. I never received the Photoshop file upon request either, which worries me a bit. A situation like this, where the person says, this was the one time I did it, I swear, it's always a little finicky because typically, statistically speaking, right, how is it statistically possible the one time you did it is also the one time you got caught? It can happen, it's possible, right? More likely than not, though, right? And I don't know because I don't know Haku's process, nor do I see any of Haku's Photoshop files. But more than likely, what typically happens is this is behavior that has been done before and it's been done multiple times, and you only get caught after doing it a couple times, right? The odds of getting caught the first time are pretty low, but not zero. And other people are kind of finicky as well. So Nymphelia writes, absolutely heartbroken. This artist designed my outfit for my new model and delivered one of my favorite pieces. Just really sad. So they post the outfit where the art is made by Haku Yuan. And I just want to point out the irony where there is a little logo here that says no AI learning, no copying. And then this is the piece in question, which really cute outfit. And people in the comments are speculating. So Zashu writes, it sucks indeed, but I'm gonna be real. I thought it was eerily reminiscent of AI art styles, but decided to ignore it since I can clearly see a real artist drawing like this. And sadly, AI quote art styles end quote have stunning lighting and rendering, so it's comprehensible that some artists will want their style to look like it. And Leah adds, I had no clue, unfortunately. I think AI tracing and generating is something a lot of people struggle with recognizing. Because I work with this artist already for my design work, I didn't even consider the fact it could incorporate AI. I mean, personally, to be honest, this style is a bit reminiscent of AI artwork. The thing is, though, which is why, again, please just be cautious when it comes to like out accusing people of AI, whatever. AI is trained on human artists. So this is why there are going to be artists, right, that have an art style that looks similar to AI. It's the chicken and the egg situation, which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? In this case, the artists, human artists came first. AI then came around, took 16,000 people's artwork without permission, okay, and then trained AI on it. And then now we have Gen AI that can replicate people's styles. But the artists came first. So there's many cases where there's legitimate human artists, right, who have this art style. And then the reason why their art looks similar to AI is because AI was trained on them. And then there's the flip side of the coin, people who have then taken AI generated images and then painted over it, which we know Haku has done it for one confirmed piece. But then the issue that arises then from this is that if it was done for one piece, what's to say you didn't do it for other pieces? It's kind of like a now we can't fully trust that you did not do this with other artworks because we know you've done it before. Like, it's kind of like the cheating thing, you know? Like, if you cheated once, future partners will just be slightly suspicious because you've done it already. Is it fair? That's up to you to decide, right? People can definitely change and learn to be better. People can cheat in the past and not cheat in the future, but there will be that like air of suspicion. Another Twitter user, Astra Elena, writes, this was the art I got from them. I was so excited to use it for merch or for my 1.5, but now I don't think I can, and I'm incredibly heartbroken and disheartened. I still love how beautiful it is, but that it was very likely AI traced upsets me to the point of tears. And this is the artwork they've received. Which again, like I was just previously stating, that is the tricky part, right? Because we know this artist has traced AI previously, what's to say that your piece wasn't traced or whatever? It just depends on whether you believe them or not. And Haku adds a couple follow-ups. They write, I truly thought I could apologize to everyone individually, but I've come to realize it's too overwhelming. I responded to some messages and shared what I could to prove it's not AI, and I'm very thankful to those who showed understanding and patience. For now, I decided the most sincere way I can take responsibility is to delete this account. I know I've disappointed many people, and I'm deeply sorry. I hope by leaving, those who wish to continue the artwork I've made can do so without discomfort and worry. And Hannah writes, many artists prefer to hide the fact they use AI. I think it was good that you talked about it knowing how people would react. I've experienced artists, the ones I've worked with, making excuses and brushing it off, and too stubborn to admit it even when faced with proof. Please don't give up, Haku. You have so much skill and talent, and I hope you keep going. I'd love to see how your art and style continues to improve. And Haku adds, I'm truly sorry. A friend helped me realize that I shouldn't delete this account just yet. There are still many people who haven't seen my statement, and I owe a lot of them an explanation. So I'll try my best to respond to everyone over the next 3 days, and then I'll close this account. This is a personal decision, not something I was forced into. I no longer feel I deserve to continue using this account. At the end of the day, I'm super sorry to Ran, who purchased something for $420 thinking it was legitimate hand-drawn artwork, and it ended up being very heavily traced over AI, where a lot of it just kind of looks like it was a filter and barely even painted over in general. The artist Haku seems very apologetic, and they seem like they are very willing to make amends and take the steps to move forward to be better. They've already issued a refund with no questions and owned up to the fact they've used AI. Whether you think they've used AI once or multiple times, that's up to you to decide. right? Only Haku knows the answer to this one. I personally think people can learn and grow and be better, and Haku seems like they're very open to try to improve and learn from their mistakes. So hopefully it was just like a one-time thing, and then in the future, they don't do this again. But don't send hate to any parties, right? That's just harassment. We're not out to do that. This is an artist that has been called out before that is being called out again for doing the same thing. This is a tweet posted by Twitter user Teru Pancake, where Tiro writes, "How far is somebody willing to go to fake not using AI? Misui, aka Foam, is deceiving people and taking commissions for $200 without telling their clients they use AI. I would never accuse somebody of AI without proof, so I compiled all the evidence here." And linked is a Google Doc. So the doc starts, "Skilled artists spawning out of thin air." This is regarding the user Misui. They're tricking people into thinking they do art from scratch when they're using the assistance of AI by tracing over generated images and taking $200 commissions without disclosing it. I am not claiming these as absolute facts, but rather substantial evidence. I understand some points might be perceived as far-fetched by people without digital art experience, but I'll provide my perspective as somebody who's been doing digital art for about 14 years now. I don't like making accusations like this, but hopefully by the end of this document, you will understand why I believe this account is using AI. Ever since AI art became a thing, there have been hundreds of new artists, in quotes, of decent skill popping up on social media without previous history of online activity. But even if an artist changes usernames or create a new account for any reason, you will be able to trace their online presence somehow. There are no social media accounts associated with the username Misui or similar outside of Twitter. Their account doesn't link to any other sites. It's very rare for somebody to show up one day with this apparent skill level and no previous following, or at least other art friends. There are no records of the specific artist making art before 2025. You can't look at the natural art skill improvement over time to see their growth and how they reach their skill level, as everything available in this has been drawn and posted within the past month. Artists nuking their accounts and old art is not uncommon, but you will still be able to trace back their art and username. Later, I found evidence of this account having multiple alts and their constant reluctance to show full evidence when they were approached with claims and deleting stuff, and doubling down and becoming hostile to the claims like another AI tracer user, Preview. And I've talked about Preview already on my YouTube channel. Basically, Preview has very, very suspicious looking artwork, and when called out, Preview called everybody sheep and called them peasants. So back to the doc, Tiro continues, "These alt accounts, all made during the same 2023 to 2025 period, also use AI without disclosing it and deny all claims. Alts aside, maybe they've been drawing for a while but never share their art online, and sure, it might be the case. Some people don't care about sharing their work on social media, so I will talk about why I don't think this is the case. By the way, I want to add, if you are somebody that has all of these, like you didn't post for a long time, you draw in private, and then you finally started posting, I can't speak for Tiro, but I'm sure the sentiment is this doesn't apply to you, okay? It's only because their art already looks super suspicious and then compounded with all this extra stuff that makes everything kind of sus. So the doc starts first, no art style consistency. They deleted the artwork on the left and a few others after being called out because I can only assume it didn't match the style of new artworks they were posting. The left was also their old profile photo. So here we can see some side-by-sides, left versus right. Here is some Shy Lily fan art, left versus right. And it adds both artworks are now deleted. I also just want to add another thing. This doesn't mean you traced AI, but one thing that you will see with AI tracers, right, is a lack of consistency in the skin tone. They somehow don't get the face and the body skin tone the same. Like the body is always some other shade. Now, some people in real life, they wear foundation, whatever, makeup, and it does make their face a different skin tone than their body. Maybe it's a bad spray tan, etc. But typically artists don't draw that. The doc continues, I will not be pointing out the overall inconsistencies in the art here because by choosing a doodle style, they can just say it's messy. I only mean to show fluctuation in the face art style. An artist of this apparent level would already have a consistent face style that makes the art recognizable even if the eye shape changes. As mentioned before, they noticed this was a possible red flag and deleted artworks where the face style didn't match their new ones. From the 3 images below, only the center one hasn't been deleted. And as you can see in these 3 images, it's very different, right? Mainly you can look at the eyes here, the way they draw the eyes, and you could argue, okay, maybe they're different people, right? So somebody might have like a more rounder eye shape, more elongated, but even in the finer details, it's different. The way they draw the eyelashes is different. This one, they tend to render the thinner eyelashes with a bit of light color here in the very inner corners, which isn't featured in the other eyes. And if you look at the lower lashes, right, they do draw lower lashes, but in this piece, they tend to draw like a bunch of little triangles, and then it's kind of filled in with what looks to be similar to the iris color, which isn't something done in the other eyes. Even the way the iris is rendered is very different. Now again, this doesn't mean you can't experiment with your art style as an artist, but back to Teru's point, somebody of this skill level typically has already kind of like locked in their style. They might experiment here or there, but there's gonna be some relative consistency across the board. Point 2, general AI looking elements in the art. There are some errors that could have been corrected during the paint over phase, but were either ignored either to release the art faster or due to lack of technical skill. Again, I won't go into detail and point out all of them in every art piece they've posted so far, because they could claim it's the sketchy doodle messy style or use the info to adapt and trace the art better. So here we have this piece where there is a red reflection in the hair, but the red reflection doesn't match slash make sense with what's happening. Here, the boob shadow, yeah. What is the shape of the boob shadow here? The doc continues, their style chosen is sketchy on purpose because it's harder to tell with untrained eyes, as the user doesn't need to keep a consistent line weight or line structure on each art piece, or cast shadows. They could just claim it's uneven or different on each piece because their style is messy. For those who aren't aware, this is how good AI has gotten at rough styles too. And here are 3 pieces from known AI accounts who confirm in their bio that they use AI. Next point, AI users ignore critical character design elements. Highlight or hair streaks don't match official art placement, and shapes don't match the drawn character's original hairstyles. There are missing key design elements like eyebrow color and thickness. This can only be attributed to an artist's personal style so many times. So here we kind of have top, which is Misui's art, and below is the references. So in the left character, hair is odd, as in the character has very, very prominent like side swooping bangs with a black tip at the very end of the bangs. The black tip, it's placed much, much higher in Misui's piece. Also, Misui gave the character side bangs, like the very stereotypical kind of like anime side bangs, which actually isn't present on this character. This is not in the doc, but this is just me being a little nitpicky. The colors are a bit off. You could argue maybe the colors are off due to the artist's design choices, which we could argue, right? The markings on the face are almost pure black on this character, and they're a very, very light gray on Misui's artwork. Also, the character's horns are very, very like straight pointed. And in Misui's piece, they've actually curved the horns, which is also wrong. These are nitpicky, but we're looking in the context of this art piece. Secondly, we have the middle character. And once again, they gave the middle character really, really blunt side bangs, like a hime cut essentially, which the character doesn't have. If you notice with all of them, the eye colors don't match. In the middle character, they have like 2 red horns, and the red horns are placed much, much lower on Misui's art piece than it actually is located on the character. You could argue they gave the character bunny ears. It could be to make up for the placement of the bunny ears. They just had to move the horns a little bit. But all the hair clips are also missing. And then we have the character on the very right, a white-haired character with 2 pigtails. The pigtail is really thick on Misui's art piece, and it's very, very thin on the character. Also, the character has very notably thick and dark black eyebrows, and their eyebrows are super thin. It's not mentioned in the doc, but I would argue they also messed up the bangs as well, because it looks like here, if you look at this side, right, there's like longer chunks for the bangs. It looks like this character, once again, has really short side bangs, like cut to the cheek, and this character has kind of like side bang pieces, but they're really long. The doc continues, characters are usually drawn wearing simple clothes like pajamas or swimsuits. Accessory elements are mostly ignored or don't match the shape accurately. Small details like beauty marks are easy to edit and add on top, but not major elements. For VTubers with big amount of fan art, the AI model might make out the hair shape more accurately to the source, which would explain why Shy Lily has the most consistent hair shape between all of these. But even if you look at Shy Lily or their piece of Shy Lily, there's again inaccuracies. Shy Lily has 2 pieces of white on both sides of the face, and they put white in the blunt part of her bangs, which isn't there. And then here we have another side by side where the shape of the bat is also very off. Again, really short side bangs where the character once again has longer side pieces, and the eye color is very off. The doc continues, time-lapse inconsistencies. To go into the work in progress and time-lapse point, I can assume they're using Clip Studio on a mobile device based on the following screenshot, which you can see here on the left. I will be pointing out some of the time-lapse inconsistencies from the perspective of an artist who also uses Clip Studio Paint. I won't be pointing all of them out in case this info is used by them or other grifters to adapt their methods and avoid getting caught if they make new accounts. They've done this before already, so I apologize, I won't go into detail. The issue might not seem that obvious to somebody who is not an artist or doesn't have experience. If you are an artist and are skeptical after seeing all of this, please DM me and I will explain further. I'm gonna assume these time lapses are not edited, but for those who don't know, there are now methods to generate entire AI art time lapses, so the time lapse speed paints are no longer considered irrefutable proof. This is a site called Paints Undo, which can fake speed paints. This is something that I've already talked about prior, but as you can see here, the speed paints are still very like choppy when you look at it. Going forward, note that it is possible to hide layers from showing in Clip Studio Paint time lapses, similar to Procreate.
Here's a way to make a time-lapse video in Clip Studio Paint without having to show your reference or sketch layer.
Press and hold on the desired layer to become hidden.
So I didn't know this, but apparently you can press and hold on the layer, go under selection from layer, create a selection. Oh, I'll have this video linked down below as well. I'm muting it just because there's some audio in the background, but you select your line art layer and then you go to selection from layer, create selection, and then you turn your selection into a layer, and then you can change the properties of the layer color. And then they're going in and paint bucketing over the art piece. And now they're showing us the time lapse. And here, if you look at the time lapse, you can't actually see that layer. What? I use Clip Studio Paint. I didn't even know this was possible. Yeah, and this is posted to YouTube by user Unji Art. So the doc continues. This is the first time lapse they posted in this account during August 15th after being called out for AI usage. So here they show a sketch, they show the color, and they show the rendering. By the way, I'm not clicking any of their links because they've deleted their account. But here is a GIF version that was added to the documents. And the doc continues, having exported many times before with Clip Studio Paint, I noticed some discrepancies here. First, I have to point out that Clip Studio Paint time lapses don't show when you flip the canvas. This doesn't transform the actual canvas, only the current view. In order for that flip to show, as you saw in the GIF, there was a flip, you would have to use a transform tool to select the area and then select flip horizontally. For those who aren't familiar with digital art, this is different from the flip canvas system available in the navigation menu. This is something they started doing on this time lapse specifically. Why am I implying that this is supposedly their first time lapse posted? I'll cover that in a bit and I'll show you what previous time lapses not available in this account look like. So back to the first time lapse. And yeah, I also want to add, to do that, like, a lot of artists will flip their canvas to kind of like, make sure the proportions look right. You typically don't select all of your art piece, then transform it horizontally by flipping it through the transform tool, working on and then flipping that again, because that only flips like that one specific layer. It doesn't flip your entire canvas. Almost always, but very, 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 very commonly, pieces that are this rendered use more than one layer. So it just is easier to do it the canvas way. By 7 seconds, all the flat areas are filled automatically. Not another way would be copy pasting layers from a separate canvas they have open on the side. Based on the length of this time lapse, this is not possible to do in a single second, especially the detailed hair strokes. Understandably, after they got accused of using AI, they started posting more work in progresses. In the second time lapse, they finally started using the liquify tool, but only once during the sketch phase. It was never used again later. They made sure to spend longer coming up with the sketch draft compared to the previous time lapse. And you can see them drafting the color layers too, so they could post a work in progress screenshot. There are two layers, the sketch and the base white, which means the canvas flipping was done in the transform tool. They would need to select both layers. This is not the usual method for artists to flip their art, as the navigator flip is faster and one click. And it would be more tedious to use the transform for the entire thing, especially being on mobile. Clicking the selection tool, making the selection of each layer, selecting scale rotate, and then finally flipping. More importantly, despite all the sketch prep phase, which lasted 11 time-lapse seconds, the flat color layers magically appear in a split second at 12 seconds in. I can only assume that this layer is being copy and pasted onto the time-lapse canvas. So here is a GIF of them. It also just goes again from like flat colors like this to poof, all of a sudden there's already sketchy rendering appearing like in the next second. And to respect this document, I'm not gonna dig in more details about the inconsistencies of this speed paint stuff. So here, another artist in Discord is looking at the piece and they're like, yeah, assuming everything is super clean, it would take 4 paint bucket fills minimum for them to fill in the entire piece, not 1. Also, again, what is not possible because there's 4 separate colors used on the piece, right? User Misui has been caught tracing AI before and provided time lapses in other accounts that are now deleted. I will elaborate about other accounts in the next section. At first, they only provided work in progress screenshots, but since they kept getting caught in denying AI assistance, they're constantly upgrading their methods to refute claims about them using AI. This is just absurd to me because with all this effort they're putting into pretending they could draw by painting over AI, they could have just learned how to draw at this point. Like, genuinely. On their first account, Aqua, they posted a time-lapse for the first time after people were raised concern about the artwork they posted being AI. The time-lapse was eventually deleted, but there is a YouTube video talking about it and playing said time-lapse. Dude, this is my— oh no, wait, there's an ad. This is my YouTube video! This new Twitter artist was called out for using AI. I read through the doc like prior to this, and then I hit the point where they mentioned the name, and I was like, oh my god, I've talked about this person before, like one of their previous aliases. To back it up, it was this piece. And they posted a speed paint underneath in Clip Studio Paint Mobile, being like, this is all I could record. So we should have the speed paint sketch where they kind of sketch things out. And this is basically what they had. It was an incomplete speed paint, but their drawing process was really odd. So they add, here is a time-lapse from one of their alt accounts foam. This time-lapse has 30 seconds instead of the usual 60 seconds. Clip Studio Paint lets you pick between 4 lengths, 15, 30, 60, all. Do keep in mind once more that Clip Studio Paint allows you to hide layers. As of me writing this, the time-lapse was deleted, but the artwork is still available. After all the time-lapses in their old accounts, which they claim were evidence that they didn't use AI, were deleted, which again is always suspicious. Look, artists delete time-lapses for different reasons. Sometimes it's because they're falsely being accused of AI, and this one video is like, you know, driving a lot of harassment towards them, and for peace of mind, they deleted it. If you have evidence that will refute the claims, that will prove you innocent, multiple pieces, you went and deleted all of them, that's a bit of a choice. Their newest time-lapses started showing the techniques people point out were missing. More sketching drafts using the lasso tool and transforming and the liquefy tool. And the liquefy was one single click during the sketch. This is why I will not share exactly what else stands out between these. Uploaded between left to right, August 15th, 17th, and 19th. And all of them are 60 seconds long. The rendering for these are very interesting. And to respect the document, I'm not gonna comment as to why, but it is a choice that they're making in some things. Sorry, I'm just laughing because I'm like, oh, that's all I could say. And the doc continues, for those who are not artists or don't watch time-lapses, here are a few samples by other artists shared with their permission. These are all 60-second Clip Studio Paint time-lapses, converted to a GIF format. I do acknowledge the art process will vary per artist, but an individual artist will usually have a rather standardized process across all timelines. And honestly, looking at all of this, it looks really cool. It's like, I love looking at art speed paints and stuff like that. I used to have a YouTube channel where I would post them because they're just so satisfying to look at, and all these artists are so talented. But yeah, you can see with their art, there's definitely a process. The doc continues, I am shocked but not surprised at the length somebody would go to pretend they're not using AI. Whether or not you support or hate AI, somebody going to this extent to trick people is deplorable. There are tons of Twitter accounts already where they have a disclaimer in their bio telling people the art is a mix of AI and Photoshop. At this point, it would be so much easier to claim you are using AI. Misui keeps getting caught denying claims, fabricating proof, then deleting said proof and running away when the evidence becomes too overwhelming. This is not their first time doing this. They've made multiple accounts before. Because of that, I hope you understand I'm omitting some evidence that will be useful to find them once more when they inevitably make a new account. So why would I go this far to point out the person is using AI without disclosing it when there are so many other people seemingly doing the same thing? Same and the opposite reason as them. Because they're charging money for commissions without telling clients their artwork is AI. This is a scam. So here you can see the Misui account it has $200 scams open. The Aqua account, which I've also made a video about, $300 for a skip. As you can see the graphic, it says, all details, outfit, and pose decided by me. And the graphic reads, no details because AI. Which, yeah, right? Because you're gonna get caught the moment somebody is like, yeah, can you draw me in this super complex, complicated outfit that AI cannot generate because it doesn't exist? So, multiple accounts linked to a single user. User Misui has posted AI in the past with the account name Foam, and before that as Aqua and Wowschi. I'll post public evidence below, but again, some info can't be made public in consideration to other parties that documented stuff as well. However, I've seen and confirmed claims myself. And the Foam account has no AI in their bio. So here are some images from the Foam account, and the doc reads, no art style consistency between images again. Gura is similar to Momoko Haru's art style. Their art is constantly stolen to train AI models. I believe these were less traced from scratch and just barely edited on top of the generated images. See Kira's eyes and the usual AI sloppy shading style. Oh yeah, what is happening over here? Very, very crunchy irises. And then the wobbly eye line here. Here you can see top and bottom, the Misui account, the Foam account, and the eyes look really similar. And they also add a link, read more about Foam here. So this is a post made by user Trash Account 65. Foam is a scammer who uploads traced AI art and has been harassing and threatening people. This is a resource to link back to as evidence. Please consider politely informing any VTubers or artists who interact with this account in the future. And it reads, Foam is an AI artist who is harassing and scamming people. They trace AI. And Foam has previously received and requested a community note claiming they were an alt of an AI account. In response, they hid any messages mentioning it and later deleted the artwork to hide it. The community note claimed that Foam is the AI artist Wasuchi and Aquao. This person has previously called out the other AI artists. Foam blocked them prior to the community note being requested. 2. Deleting stuff. Several posts have been deleted. They hide replies calling them out, block those accounts, and harass them on alts. They remove these staged time lapses after being called out and have the same art style as AI artists Aquao and Wasuchi, as well as the same technique used to fake time lapses. And here are the side by side for the eyes, which they look very similar in the styling. Possible AI artifact in deleted Fuao art. This account has called out the original AI artist a while ago, and they've seen both time lapses, noting the issues and similarities. And the account is named Wasuchi Exposed, never redoing any lines, never using the transform tool, only flipping the canvas at the very end when you're already way past sketching. Threats, harassment, and being a creep. It alleges that one of the VTubers who commissioned Foam likely has to file a chargeback because Foam is ghosting them, but it adds that they were unable to charge back. And then Foam found the person who posted the community note and harassed them with emails and alt accounts. An alleged alt account is an account by the name of Bubble Efi, which was created around the same time Foam started uploading art, March 2025. And this account is often rushing to their defense and replies, retweeting their art and harassing people. So their first post was April 16th in response to somebody calling Foam out, stating, yeah, this is ridiculous. And here are some other comments. 2 days later, that Bubble account says, your art isn't getting flagged because it's nowhere near the level of artists like Foam. That's not to be rude, but it's obvious that you're still a beginner intermediate. She posted a speed paint, so stop hurling accusations. Bro, you got 1 like on this. Maybe you shouldn't falsely accuse every artist who's better than you of AI. Only 4 likes on this trend. Maybe if you practice drawing more, you would get more likes and you wouldn't have to resort to accusing real artists of AI with your scoundrel methods. 8 likes and 2 retweets, you're so obviously desperate for clout, so you accuse every better artist than you of being AI. Those ones all were posted the same day, by the way. So Foam offered to send files for verification, and then made excuses, then claimed they merged all the layers and overpainted on top of it, which is sus. And then here are some DMs where they say, I'm gonna find where you live and give you a big hug because you're cute. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Would you like that, cutie? Hey, serious question, are you a girl or a boy? And Sierra notes, they didn't send any art files. Foam is manipulative, they often come off as reasonable and polite, but they lie a lot, then switch to the sort of childish behavior. And last piece of evidence, AI detection sites aren't 100% accurate. However, every single piece of this person's art comes back as 99% stable diffusion usage, and 1 at 97%. That doesn't happen to legit artists. And it adds that each of these on its own is not evidence for AI, but combined together, it's very suspicious. So back to this document, now we're on to more info about Aquao and Wasuchi. I'll have the YouTube video that I made about all of this linked down below, but I do go over a lot of the art pieces as to why it's so odd. Here are some example pieces from the Aquao account with like super warp stuff happening in the background, missing all the buttons. Again, I don't know what in the grommets is happening with this piece. One other thing pointed out is a similar typing style. They do have a very similar typing style of like writing space, punctuation space. The doc continues, I'll try to make it clear here why all the accounts above, Wasuchi, Aquao, Foam, and Misui are all the same person. After being called out for AI, Aquao nuked their account and changed their username to user 19300188392, but you can still find the old tweets from people who replied if you look up their old username. These are responses to a free art tweet. And you can see here are some responses. So here are some odd elements in Aqua's art. And then the doc continues, Aqua's account was created June 2024, the same month Wasuchi's account was created. Wasuchi's account is deactivated now, but the screenshots were grabbed from a user Artidoko, where you can see Aqua and Wasuchi both joined June 2024. Now this is interesting. The image above was posted by Wasuchi, but sourced to an Aqua tweet. So here you can see the source is Aqua for this piece. But then here, in this image, it was posted by Wasuchi, but sourced to Aqua tweet on Dambaru. And as you can see, the source was Aqua. Here is a post credited to Wasuchi, as you can see here. Look at the eyes. User Foam denied being related to Wasuchi and Aqua. Their account was made October 2023, the Foam account. But their first recorded and now deleted artwork was posted in 2025, according to Dambaru. So here, Foam made a tweet denying the fact they're related to Wasuchi and Aqua. They said, the literal content of the note stated, I was a rebrand of AI artist Wasuchi. I did some digging and they changed their user from Aqua to hide AI. This is their art link below. Like, can we be so for real? First of all, they can't even post a full speed paint for the life of them, while I have. Secondly, our art styles don't even look remotely alike. Whereas here you look across the board, Foam's eyes versus Aqua's eyes versus Misui's Misui's eyes. They do look really similar. The doc adds a timeline. Foam joined Twitter October 2023. Misui joined Twitter November 2023. Misui started posting the beginning of January 2024 and went active June 2024. Foam starts posting April 2025. Foam stopped being active June 2025. Misui returns August 2025. And the doc adds, okay, they are all connected. But were they also using AI? Yes. I'm not sure at what point they switched from generating AI and repainting it to tracing from the AI or both. From my own observation, it seems they switch back and forth from these methods, but now they stick to tracing so they can deceive people with time lapses. And here you can see some of Aqua's art versus Foam's art. And the doc adds very impressive 7-month improvement. But wait, Foam claimed they are not related to Aqua. Anyways, let's zoom in a bit more. Nah, these look so similar. So this was something posted by Aqua, October 2024, posted by Foam, April 2025, posted by Misui, August 2025. And the doc adds, if you somehow still have doubts, let me share another Aqua, totally not AI, art from October 2024. And you can see there is a piece here. And then they add the same month the pics below were drawn. And they're two very anime-esque pieces. Maybe they just mastered both drawing moe anime girls and semi-realistic men at the same time. Dubious commission updates. So I will tell you the reason I made this godforsaken doc at 4 a.m. in the morning. I stumbled upon this person's account on my feed a couple days ago, and I was willing to let it go because AI usually finds its way to my feed pretty often, and I'm happy to block and move on. I made a whiny, vague post without naming them because I didn't want drama. I was ready to leave it at that, but they're getting commissions from people who don't know better and have now upped their price to $200. On their profile, you can read they were taking Skeb commissions for $100 and hours later increased that to $150. Wow. And you can see it's pretty close because their follower count is pretty similar between these two screenshots. And according to the doc, these posts are one August 15th at 12 a.m., August 15th at 4 p.m. So 16 hours later. Then August 16th, they closed commissions. And then August 17th, they increased the price to $200. And remember, on the Aqua accounts, they were taking commissions for $300. And as of the $200 update, they were only accepting friends and family for commission payments. With the price update, they've updated their payment method to friends and family. It's a huge red flag as friends and family transactions don't offer buyer protection and can't be disputed. Any reputable artist knows to never charge clients with this method. This also is against PayPal's own TOS and can get you flagged and suspended. Friends and family methods basically don't offer payment protection. And the doc adds this isn't the first time somebody tried to pass off Gen AI as their own art to try to take commissions. Haku Yan tried doing this. I also talked about this as well. I'll have the video linked down below. This one was wild. The client asked, hey, can I see the Photoshop files? They sent the Photoshop files. I forgot to delete the AI image out of it. And that was after the client was really frustrated because they were like, hey, I want you to change this or that. And they were like very reasonable changes, but the artist just couldn't do it for some reason. And it was because they generated it with AI. So adding those specific changes, AI couldn't do it. And the doc adds, below are AI generated images from accounts. So hopefully you can understand why I'm cynical about new artists popping up out of nowhere with seemingly skilled art. Do you see what I mean though? Like again, we have the face absolutely not matching the skin tone. When confronted about AI, Misui pretends to be oblivious. They're actively looking for ways to deceive people better by asking how exactly somebody can tell their art is AI. This is why I didn't bring up all possible red flags in the doc. So here, Misui says, Photoshop files can be provided for my artwork. Just ask, which Sierra had asked and didn't get it. And moreover, I've recorded a time-lapse of my most recent pieces, which in my opinion is not very indicative of AI. I'm probably overthinking this, but this is just a weird statement to say. That's like me being like, here's the CCTV footage from last night, which in my opinion pretty much shows that I didn't murder somebody. Like, if you're innocent, I feel like you just wouldn't talk like this. Another commenter says, this is like a Twitter message. Hello, please tell me if you have proof that Foam is using AI assistants. I follow them for a long time and I enjoy their art and support them against haters. However, if there's sufficient proof, I must avoid them. Similarly, their alts deny using AI. When they share proof, they proceed to delete it. If said proof was solid evidence of them not using AI, they would not be deleting it. Here are a whole bunch of messages of them denying it. And it says evidence of images that were deleted by them. Their profile photo, which is this piece, you can see exact matches for the Misui accounts. More pieces that were deleted. And the doc adds, Twitter user Misui, providing clear evidence that you are not using AI is very simple if you know what you're doing. And dismissing claims right away only makes you look more suspicious. I am willing to retract these claims if you provide further proof to me. But with all the evidence above, I find it hard to believe you're not. If you've given up on drawing things all by yourself and don't want to stop using AI, disclose it publicly so you're not tricking people who don't know better. And the doc continues, who those are often commissioning artists, please be careful in the future. If something looks suspicious, ask a friend or an artist you know for help. At the same same time, please don't go around accusing people of AI without solid proof. Little errors could be normal. An art style that looks AI could be because AI was trained with similar styles. A new artist with no track record posting flawless art is suspicious, but not enough evidence to call them out. Although recent account date and no previous history is strong evidence, a veteran artist or somebody with an account made before 2022 could just start using AI at a later point without telling their followers. In case pro AI Reddit keyboard warriors are reading this is not about me hating AI art. It's about deception, dishonesty, and fraud. If you are tracing or painting over AI, you should let people know. Some people don't care, some people don't want to support it. By not telling people you use AI, you're faking your skill capabilities. Ends with what people imagine when they think about AI art. Left, we have the old AI art that looks very obvious. And on the right is what AI art looks like in 2025. Do you see what I mean though? Like the face never matches the body and skin tone, like rarely. Even in the old AI models, the face is way paler than the body. Here, the face is like a completely different skin tone than the body. That's just something I've noticed with these like AI pieces. And again, I don't even mean like, oh, you know, the neck is in shadow. Like if you compare her face to her chest, it's just not the same. And the other accounts are gone, but the foam account actually still exists. Again, no AI in the bio, and we have a bunch of pieces posted by this account. It's very interesting because if you look at their posts, the amount of comments they get relative to the amount of likes is very little. 19,000 likes, only 23 comments. 26,000 likes, only 53 comments. 6.1 thousand likes, 3 comments. That doesn't mean you used AI, but there's definitely heavy comment filtering happening. I do think some of the pieces, again, are a bit interesting because again, it's showing a bit of inconsistency that could be human error, could be AI. I'm just going to use this piece here as an example, right? AI is not great with lighting. The character looks very top front lit, right? From the front, kind of higher up because the hair is very well lit. The shadow is completely on the left side. And the shadow would only really be present here if she's lit hard from the right to get a shadow like this. If she was lit like this, the shadow should be behind her. This way. Again, we have like clothing inconsistencies here, right? We have clothing. She's got, you know, a white button down on that's, you know, unbuttoned to show a fair amount of cleavage. There's no matching buttonhole on the other side. And the shirt labels don't match left or right. We have like a little cutout here for the label, like the same on this side. It's just odd. Some swirly hair stuff happening over here. And then again, we have the double eyeliner, which some people have like double, triple eyelids. AI will tend to do that. I don't know why, but it does. And then we have this piece where a lot of the comments are kind of calling them out for AI. This is giving very AI to me. I'll just point out one thing that's a bit odd in this piece is the fact that like they're wearing a cow headband, which is super cute. Why is there like teal on the cow ears? It could be a design choice. It's just a bit interesting because the teal is suspiciously similar to the undercolor of the hair, which is also teal, but it doesn't make sense. Right? It's not backlit in any way because this character's against white. Also because there's no other blue or teal rim lighting except on the ears. Just doesn't seem like a choice a human would make when it comes to drawing this. So either this is Aqua Wasuchi Misui's 4th account foam, or it could also be like maybe somebody else just completely using AI. But honestly, it's like wild to see this come full circle. You're actively scamming people by claiming you didn't use AI but putting no AI on my bio. Oh, I didn't use AI. Look at my speed paint. I swear it's legitimate. And then you're selling commissions for like hundreds of dollars. And people are buying it thinking you're a legit artist and you're not. That is the issue that I have with this. So it's an absolute scam. And thank you, Teru, for putting in so much effort to compile this document together. This document was very, very, very well put together, very well informed, and linked all the sources. I'll have the document linked down below and Teru's tweet for you to go check the doc out yourself if you would like. Don't send hate to any parties involved, okay? But what are your thoughts on this entire situation of this artist who's been called out before doing this behavior again? Just a to me. But if you like this video, I appreciate it if you like and subscribe. Don't forget to check me out on Etsy. I have digital art for streamers and creators like emotes there, and my coffee with free resources for streamers and creators. You guys have really been saying you want longer videos again, and I want to make longer videos for you. I've just been traveling a lot, so when I have time to sit down, I can finally record a longer piece. So I am equally as excited that this longer piece is coming out. So yeah. And don't forget to check me out on Twitch. I do stream there 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays at 6 p.m. PST. And I hope to catch you guys in my Twitch stream or in this video about Aqua, the one I made previously, where you can see all these stuff that we've called them out before. They just came back doing again, I guess. This artist on Twitter called out another illustrator on Twitter for AI in their work and potentially in their VGen commissions as well. So all of this starts with this artist by the name of Zorax, who posts this illustration and they just write, Hermes. And this is the illustration in question, where it's basically an illustration of Hermes kind of sitting on a block of wood or something like that. And this was posted September 3rd, and it got 17,000 likes. Then this artist by the name of Lucid or underscore Lulu Sid underscore on Twitter quote retweets it stating, "Don't fall for AI assisted artwork." And that is what cracks this entire situation open. And again, don't send hate to either parties. So Zorax responds, "I respect the concern, but this piece is my own work. I've been building up my style for a while, so before accusing me of anything, I hope we're cool." And Lucid responds, "Many of the portraits you've done look exactly like Midjourney compositions. No real emphasis on the hands and minimally overpainted with texture brushes and smudges, especially the shape language on your metalwork. I would love to see proof that suggests otherwise." Somebody replied that they should have DM'd Zorax, but Lucid responds that Zorax DMs were closed, so they couldn't do that. Another commenter says, "It does seem inconsistent." Zorax on Facebook. And they have artworks that Zorax has posted on Facebook. This one is a really, really anime-style sketchy cartoon piece versus this illustration versus this sketch and another illustration. There are also commenters on Zorax's side stating that they use Ibis paint textures to draw and that here are some examples of their pieces. In the comment section though, a lot of people were also like, yo, this call-out is like completely uncalled for. It's not AI, you're just a hater. But then a lot of people started going through Zorax's artworks and they found some elements that looked a bit suspicious. So one Twitter user says, "I have one final doubt regarding something quite unusual in the drawing. And that is the lip of one of these pieces. As you can see, this is the character's lip. And there is a long kind of like triangular shadow that comes up above the lip that is the same color. So it's definitely not the philtrum, which is the divot that is between your nose and your upper lip. Some people have it, some people, it's not really prominent. Benefit of doubt, it could be a scar on the character's lip." The Twitter user also writes, "Just a bit more. At first glance, the color application is top notch, but when you zoom in, there's no outline indicating it's metal, which feels a bit odd. And the strap feels like it should be leather or fabric, but the color makes it look like it's something polished." I think this one is just a bit interesting due to the fact that there is like a shine down here that looks like it's metal. I mean, if it's like a buckle of sorts, the buckle would kind of go across the entire thing, right? Unless this is the buckle. Another commenter adds, "From her Facebook though, 3 fingers. And this looks to be a work in progress where you can see it looks like they're holding a knife of some sort. To me, this honestly looks like it's 4 fingers, right? Because we have 1 here and then 2, 3, 4 like this. No thumb visible, but the hand angle could hide the thumb. What I think is interesting is this hand, because it's the wrong hands. If you're holding your hand like this, the thumb would be on the outside, not on the inside. Again, benefit of doubt. Artists make mistakes all the time. You know, I get the hand positions wrong all the time. I'm sure you have. Everyone will make that mistake. This artist tends to make a lot of mistakes with hands, which is why I'm bringing this up. Another commenter writes, "This is my personal curiosity, whether it's the same artist, but they draw ears so differently each time. Not even one is the same. Is this normal?" Here is one illustration where we have this character's ear, and this ear has a strong divot kind of on the inside of the ear, like right on the the fleshy part of the earlobe. And then another dimpling in here in the ear, which this is not common in ear anatomy, to be honest. Here's another person's ear. Wait, that is not even anatomically correct. Like, I guess maybe it could be possible. Like, this one is just a bit interesting. Again, look, not everyone's like a studies anatomy like that. I was just a bio major, so I'm like maybe a little more of a stickler. The ear has like a prominent ring of cartilage on this part of the inner ear, and then it kind of folds into the conch area. And then there is this like other ridge, but this ridge here sits beneath this outer part of the ear. And here you can see the ridging doesn't do that. It's as if it's like connected and flush to the side of the ear where it's supposed to sit under. It could be an anatomical mistake, right? Ears are hard to draw. They're kind of funky sometimes. And it is true that person to person, everyone's ears are a bit different. Some people, the cartilage protrudes a little bit more, some people a little bit less. It's just interesting. And then it also looks like the ear splits here, which it definitely does not do on like anybody's ear. And here is another ear where it's again drawn differently. There's no like dimpling happening in the bottom part of the earlobe. There's no like second line of cartilage that comes in this way that you can see. That second piece of cartilage comes in on this ear. Maybe benefit of doubt, this artist is so much of like a hardcore stickler to realism that whichever human they're referencing for this photo or this illustration, they draw exactly 1-to-1. So maybe the person they're referencing has a different ear shape, so they specifically draw it that way. One thing I do think is interesting is that this doesn't mean that somebody used AI, but AI has a tendency to make very pink, fleshy parts of the body. Like, it'll make the ears really pink. It'll make, like, if you're drawing, like, boobs, it'll make it really, really pink, way more than like somebody's average skin tone will typically look like. This is a trait that is present in Zorax's artwork. It again doesn't mean that you used AI, but it is something that will be present in AI generated works. Like again, we have here, this person's like blushing, their ear is very, 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 very red. This is what another commenter on Twitter writes, "What is this? A phone with a needle?" And that is in reference to this art piece, which features somebody kind of on the phone, and they're holding, it's like a really old-fashioned phone with like a coil. They're holding the bottom of the phone in one hand, which maybe there's a lore reason as to why it looks this way, but I mean, my family has a bunch of these types of phones. They're not this small. The body of the phone, like the base where you rack the actual telephone afterwards, is quite large because it needs to be able to hold the receiver. And if the receiver is this size, typically the bottom where it would hold it is going to be pretty large too. But maybe the hand is obstructing it. I don't know, right? What is really interesting is this item here. Is that a phone or is that a clock, right? The old-fashioned phones where you stick your finger and spin the number, because this most definitely is neither. If it was a phone, it would have 10 numbers on it, right? 0 through 9. If it was a clock, it would have 12, right? 1 through 12. But there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 divots in this. But it has one arm for a clock, right? It doesn't even have like both the hour and the minute hands. It just has one and 12 divots. And if you look inside the divots, it also makes no sense. Like some of these divots are circular, some are oval in shape. Inside, there's nothing. There's detailing in here, and they're all different details, but these aren't numbers. So what exactly is this? And then there's just like 2 divots missing. If there were circles or dots completely around this clock watch thing, would it go all the way around? But it doesn't. But then there's also like a charm loop. It's like there's a piercing at the top of this thing. Doesn't make sense. Like this detail in the art piece is just extremely odd. Another Twitter user writes, "Painted over work in progress. 6 fingers, 6 being the thumb behind the pointer finger. Insane art style, quality jumps between artworks. For comparison, August 11th versus 6 days ago." Yeah, this artist is fishy. So this was August 11th, and this was 6 days ago. Look, everybody has different art styles. Some people will have a sketchy style, a regular drawing style. They definitely look quite different. So let's expand a little bit more on these 6 fingers. There's this Twitter user who is defending Zorax, who writes, "This is one of her works, and she would like a formal apology. Not only that, if you're an artist, you will know this time-lapse is legit." So here we have the beginning kind of the framing. As you can see in the sketch, the character has 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers with a thumb that's not visible because of the hand position. It would be behind. And this is the finished art piece before final textures are added. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fingers now. And then this is with the actual final textures added. That same person reblogged on Tumblr Zorax's speed paint. And here you can see in the speed paint, like they're painting other things. They're drawing like funny faces and stuff like that to show like that they painted it themselves. You know, they're doing a lot of flipping, whatever. But look here. They just like confidently rendered in 5 fingers essentially. Well, they'll go back to do it, but right here, bam. They confidently rendered it in 5 fingers with a thumb that's hidden. Now, like I said, artists make mistakes. Humans make mistakes, right? Sometimes you literally just miscount the amount of fingers and you're like, whoops, and you don't realize till the piece is completed, especially in a case where one finger, in this case, the thumb, is hidden. So you're like, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oh, we're good. All right, keep going. Again, I just thought to bring this up because it's interesting that this artist can render to such an insane degree. They're dropping pieces that look like this, and they make so many errors with the fingers and the hands. Right? The thumb is in the wrong place. The hand is a backwards hand. Too many fingers. Because again, you can make the argument, maybe they were just careless and brushing through. A piece like this doesn't scream careless. A piece like this screams meticulous. So that's why it's just odd. So September 4th, Lucid quote retweets their original post, writing, "The biggest indicators of AI is their metalwork. If you've seen any classical Mid-Journey prompts, you'll find an inconsistency in the logic of the metal. Random gold embroidery with no real design, random swirling in the shape language, jewels that coil into gold, etc." So here is a close-up of what looks to be a sword hilt they've drawn, where if you look closely, it does look really, really elaborate. Yes, what is exactly happening? There's an emerald that's set in a setting, but it's not set in the middle. And of course, like, you know, asymmetrical looks are really popular nowadays. It just is a bit odd because the language doesn't make sense. Like, there's like droplets kind of coming out of the gold. A lot of swirling happening with the metal here for some reason. This piece, when you look from afar, it looks super detailed, But then when you take a look at the detail, there's like 2 different types of detailing. With like classic painters, a lot of times they'll add like a couple brush strokes, and from afar, it might look like a diamond. But when you look close, it's literally 3 dots, you know, that like together work together. It makes sense when you get up close. And with the detailing in this piece, it doesn't make sense. Right? If you look at the collar of the clothing, it's not symmetrical. The detailing on this collar which it's like a loop and then a U and then a dot and then another U and then a loop and then a really much bigger loop and then kind of like a 3-ring thing going on. It doesn't match at all on the other side. And then there's a fancy detailing here and some metal work happening. And then you look closely at the metal work and the thickness is very uneven. The logic behind why it looks like this also doesn't quite make sense. More close up of the metal work of the pole or the pillar it's holding, where again, it looks really detailed. And you look at the details closely and there's a gold pearl and then 2 more gold pearls that are a bit offset and then what looks like a head here. And then there's like detailing here, but it's not symmetrical all the way around. Like the further example I'm trying to make is like, you know, this is an example of a golden decorative pillar that would go like inside or outside a home. It is very elaborate in the decorations, but the patterning does make sense. There is some sort of symmetry to it, etc. Doesn't mean you can't use asymmetry in your work, but it's just not as common to find in things like pillars, like poles, staffs, etc. And even if it is something like this, right? Here's another pillar where there is asymmetry going on in the detailing. There is still some rhyme or reason as to the shape that it's taking. And I do agree with Lucid in that a lot of the detailing on this pillar specifically is a bit unclear. In expanding a little further on this piece, which is why I think this piece in specific just looks so odd, is that this is like a OC from Zorax. Zorax is the author of Dreadwatch, which is like, from my understanding, a fan comic of Warhammer. The detailing is just a bit odd as to what's happening. The head is tilted down forward, which of course, if your head tilts down forward a little bit, you know, any dangling elements would then dangle away from your face to match. But the beading that is hanging from the hats doesn't match the dangling of the head. This is coming like outwards. It's essentially kind of defying gravity a little bit. And this is coming again outwards. It should be kind of like straight, perpendicular with the ground. And again, you could be like, the artist makes mistakes, whatever, but the rendering is of such a high degree that this level of, you know, detailing, I would assume that would be caught. The other one is the hand. This one is really funky. Again, another hand thing where they're holding the pillar, but between 2 fingers. Not even. I don't know how they're holding it, right? This is like a glove, right? So this looks to be 1 finger, 2 fingers, 3 finger. It is just inserted into the hand. Like if you're holding a pillar, wouldn't you hold it this way? Not one of that thickness anyways, not like this. Or like this. This just looks uncomfortable. And then again, the asymmetry in the clothing. There could be a reason for some asymmetry, but it doesn't make sense because this character is wearing like a very high collared article of clothing that's very elaborate in the detailing. And then there's like another collar that peeks out from under, but it only peeks out from the right side of the character and not the left. And then the character's wearing this like larger white jacket, except the white jacket has a double lapel, but only on the left side of the jacket. Shouldn't there be an associating matching lapel on this side? Because this asymmetry just doesn't make sense. Is this character wearing 1, 2, 3 layers of clothing? 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of clothing? Or 1, 2 layers of clothing and this is somehow connected? And also the folding of the clothing doesn't add up. This lapel is folded outwards, but this lapel is folded inwards and basically completely straight up as if it's one of those like stiff collar jackets. Doesn't add up to me. And then again, we have another element, like I mentioned before, is common in AI work, is like pinkening of fleshy parts of the body. Sorry, there's a better way to word that. I know there is. The nose is really pink. It's like a very, very reddish nose. Maybe this character is out in the cold, so their nose is really red, but it's like the same thing as the ears, where the ears are really, really red. This is just an interesting design choice to make. That's all I'm trying to say. This is another one of their art pieces, another piece for their comic Dreadwatch, and this was posted June 19th. So this is of a character shooting a bow. Now, I've shot competitive archery for 7 years. I shot Olympic recurve, competed in the US, trained at the Olympic Training Center. This is a style of bow called bear bow. It's literally just like a stick and there's an arrow on it. I completely understand if you don't shoot archery, you will have no knowledge of the technicalities of archery. It seems easy. You just pull string back, let go. There's a lot of technicalities to it. Completely understand. I would just assume that if this is something that you lack a technical understanding in and you're trying to do like a full illustration for, then you would just look up references. Because if you do look up any references for archery, you would find out you don't actually pull the string back like this because they have the thumb and the fingers kind of pinching the string. If this were the string and this were the arrow, you pull it back this way. Three fingers on the string, thumb kind of making an okay like this. You hold the arrow between your index finger and your ring finger like this. You don't grab it like this. You won't be able to pull it back. On a complete side note, it will fall off. This is hard to do with a knife. The hand that holds the bow definitely doesn't hold it like this. You can see the arrow is going in between the index finger and the finger below it. Just anatomically, that doesn't make sense because if you're holding the bow like this, the arrow goes on top of your hand when you're shooting because the arrow has feathers, right? So if you put it in between your fingers like this and you shoot, one, you're going to injure yourself, and two, the feathers are going to hit your fingers when it comes out and you're going to be extremely inaccurate. So you shoot with it on top of your hand like this. Every style of archery shoots like this, on top of the hand. You don't shoot in between like this. Which again, if you don't shoot archery, I completely understand that you wouldn't know this. This is just confusing. Because somebody who renders to this level, I assume, would look up a bunch of reference photos, right? You could be an absolute god and pull it straight out of your head, but even professional artists would use reference photos for something they're not familiar with. So it's just odd. And then it is even more odd because if you look closely, it doesn't actually make sense. Because once again, the fingers are wrong. I'm using this with my mouse, right? But this is the character's thumb here. And then we have a finger here. And then we have a finger, but then that would make this finger like really long. What exactly is the character holding? Because the string, as you can see, the string is this like clear line you can see right here, right? This like clear yellow line. So you see the string goes here and the string is coming this way, but there's an extra detail. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there is this like brown thing. And you might be like, oh, well, you know, that's the arrow. Then why is the arrow going underneath all of these fingers? Because this brown thing, if this was the arrow, would imply the arrow is somehow going underneath the bowstring, which anatomically really makes no sense. And then what is this brown thing here? Are these the arrow feathers? Because that's not how it looks like, right? The arrow feathers would be somewhat like up like this or something. It would kind of come out like that. And then there's this brown thing up here. I don't know what that is. And then this part gets funky too, because here we have the arrow, right? We have the arrow with like a broadhead, I guess. I don't know. Not really how arrow tips look like, but the arrow's just gone. There's just a tip and there's nothing else. You might be like, well, this whole thing is the arrow. One, well, that's really thick for an arrow. But secondly, then the arrow is intersecting into the grip of the bow is not possible. And if it were intersecting into the bow, then that means the trajectory of the arrow shaft goes this way when like your backhand is over here. So your arrow needs to go this way to where your backhand is so you can actually pull it back. So the angle of the arrow is also completely wrong. And then also, this finger is very odd to me. The index finger is curled. Imagine a bow grip is really thick. Okay, it's not like a pen, but even to grip a pen and curl your index finger around the grip of your pen to hold it like this is just very uncomfortable. And the bow grip is pretty thick. It's like that. So you feasibly cannot grab it with your index finger curled like that. It'll like jam your finger. So that's why this whole piece is just very odd to me as somebody who does shoot, because the anatomy is completely off. And then if you think a little bit more into this piece, this is supposed to be the quiver for the bow, which holds the arrows. There are no arrows in this quiver. There's a circle, another circle, something that looks shaped vaguely like this with a hole in it, and something like this. And also, sorry, I don't mean to like draw over the piece to be disrespectful. I'm just trying to show you the shape language of what is happening in it to show, hey, this doesn't quite look right. Now, this is a fan piece, right? So maybe their OC doesn't have arrows in their quiver. Maybe they wield something else and they're shooting like magical arrows. I'm really pulling at straws here, but it just doesn't make sense. Or maybe they shot all the arrows so their quiver is empty now. And then in that case, why is their quiver in a box? And there's like a flag behind them, like this thing. I just find everything about this piece to be off, including the finger lengths again, where the final one is if we go over here and we look at the fingers, right? We have, you know, a finger, it's bent, this finger is curled. We have a really long pinky. Maybe it's just perspective because the hand's really close to the camera. So that was a big diversion, but going back to Lucid's thread, Lucid adds, here are some actual AI generated works from Xiaohongshu as a comparison. So we can see AI pieces where again, when you look at it on first glance, wow, this is so elaborate. And then you look at the like story or the details and it doesn't make sense and things don't add up. He's smoking a cigar, but it's not even in his mouth, but it's somehow also floating on one finger. And again, this is the like staffage or pulls with no rhyme or reason. Another example, I don't know why they're all smoking, but we've got the funny hand things going on. This one is funny because the fingers are really thin for the hands. Another character, again, super highly detailed till you look a little closer at the details and then like the chain is like intersecting with the jacket detailings. Another piece that's very highly detailed with metal, a lot of metal in this piece. And then the metal also has no story to it. Another commenter adds, agreed, here are some dead giveaways as well. Lower res hair loop, gun with no trigger, but low res nonsense. illogical metal, no symmetry, bendy, merges weirdly. So this is one art piece with a hair loop. To give benefit of doubt, this hair loop could be caused because maybe the artist is making some strokes on the canvas and it just happened to loop like this. This piece is another really interesting one because there's, again, elements of it that just look suspicious to me. Maybe it's an art style thing, but they once again have like pinkage, right? The ear and the nose are pink relative to the rest of the body. It's just an interesting design choice. Here we have a gun, right? This is the spot for the trigger. And for context, this is an English long-barreled rifle, one of those like really medieval long ones, which I assume this is like based off of. Here's another one. You can see closely where the trigger looks like, right? There's a trigger and it's kind of just like a bend like this. What is happening here? Like this is not shaped properly. Also, look really closely. This is the outline of where the trigger is supposed to be. It's set onto the side of the gun. Like the depth perception doesn't add up. But I digress. This is not the trigger. And then, do you see this though? There's these like little elements here that look like they're cosplaying a trigger. Like all this stuff that's happening in here. None of those being the actual trigger itself. Which, this to me gives AI vibes because AI tends to like generate stuff that it thinks is correct when it's not. Because AI thinks, oh, this should be a gun, so there should be trigger things here. It just puts all these little lines because it's just generating pixels. It doesn't know what it's actually doing. And then again, there's metalwork. And then you look closely at the metalwork again, it doesn't add up. There's a leaf here and another leaf here and more leaves. Haha. And then something loopy here. And then something that like snakes all the way around this way. That's just odd. Another one I want to point out are the buttons because none of the buttons look the same. This button does not look the same as this one. This one has like a little like conch shell looking thing going on. This one has like a ring around it. And this one is completely different with like a very, very, very thin trim around it, which also looks different than this one because this one has like 2-3 rings going around. Oh, and then sorry, it also looks different than this one because this one looks like a hat. So I'm just confused because I would assume if you could render to this level, you would make all the buttons the same, unless there is a design choice in the clothing, a reason as to why it should not be the same. But this doesn't look like it was an intentional reason to make the buttons look different. I'm also not sure what this fluffy thing in the middle of the chest is supposed to be, but maybe there's a reason. But the OP pointed out, and this I agree with, there's like ribboning happening here. And the ribbons just disappear. You see this? This ribbon comes down, curls back up, and it's gone. And then we have one ribbon that melts right into the ribbon behind it. And then more ribbons, but this one is really, really thin. It's like when you have those really cheap ribbons that you can actually rip them down the middle. And then here, this is interesting here. This, do you see this? There's brush strokes that look like they're ribbons, and then more loopy brush strokes. And this person's eyes are different colors. Maybe there's a lore reason for that one though, right? Because I did not read the fanfic. But other commenters feel like the brushstroke-esque aspect of the artwork is proof as to why it's handmade. This commenter says, this would work if it weren't for the fact you can see the individual brushstrokes, the use of the same brush throughout the piece, and human errors AI wouldn't make. You can see the stray brush splotch, and the same brush is present in other areas. So this is kind of like a little textured brush. You can see there's a texture here, and there's a random one that appeared kind of in the background. So you can see it's kind of, it's as if the artist accidentally touched the screen, which I do agree with, yeah. But a commenter makes this point, which I do see. They say they didn't say it was entirely AI. They said it was AI assisted. But there's this post that is very interesting, where the poster writes, I feel that the art they posted doesn't look entirely genuine. I'm not accusing them of AI, but based on various details, it makes me wonder if they might have painted over AI. The earring and the sword hilt there are still small details left they didn't fully paint over. This is the video. And because this is a work in progress that was posted by the artist, where you can see here, this is the completed piece. This is the one with the pole that is going through the guy's hand. This is just flipped. But you can see the detailing hanging off the hat. It's pretty like intensely jeweled. And in their work in progress, they painted it over, but you can still see tiny details of the jewel peeking through. Same thing here with the pole. You can see tiny details of the pole peeking out here and here. So what this commenter is saying is that maybe the artist could have generated an image and then painted over the image and like faked a work in progress by painting some parts of it over like this to make it look like it's like hand painted when the work has already been done. On a complete side note again, you can see the orange nose in comparison to the rest of the guy's complexion. But this is interesting too. You can see here, right? Even the lapel of the clothing, the white is peeking through. I think this is pretty damning. So Zorax quote retweets it saying, deadass funny how I couldn't even do what oil painters do and paint over their mistakes when they don't like it now, or else it gets called like I'm painting over an AI image. Damn. If I actually did paint over an AI image, I would have hit it better. I'm actually not that blind. I think that's interesting. Painters do paint over their mistakes to redo it again. That is very true. This person, from what people have stated, draws an ibis paint, not on a canvas. So you could just, I don't know, delete the layer that has the earring and start over. Now you can make the argument, okay, what if they work in one layer? I find that a little hard to believe because they render to such a degree. Maybe if they came from a traditional painting background where they're used to working on one layer, then they're not familiar with working on extra layers, so they stick with that. From what I have seen, do not seem to have a background in oil painting or any other sort of traditional painting, or at least they haven't posted or alluded to anything like that. So I think it would be kind of interesting to work in the same way that oil painters and acrylic painters work in when you don't work in that media or you haven't worked in that media yourself, because there's just such an easy way to go around it, which is just, I don't know, go to the earring layer and delete it. But secondly, so then you want me to believe, right, that you painted the earring and that you painted over it because you didn't like it. This character has 2 earrings and this other one is not present here. So you want me to believe this character has 2 earrings, the right one and the left one. You fully rendered the right earring, didn't put a single splotch of paint for the left earring, and then decided, I actually don't like it, and and you paint completely over it. Okay. But then what about the other parts, right? Like the part of the pole that pokes through, or the lapel of the shirt. So you fully painted one earring, almost the entire pole, and most of the jacket, and then decided you didn't like any of it and you painted over all of it again. Could be possible. Highly unlikely though. Oh, I forgot to mention, oh here, the hat. The bottom of the hat is also visible here. And this is a YouTube channel called Painting Portraits in Oils with Arthur Gain. And of course, everybody's art process is completely different. But if you do see like this piece from this YouTube channel where they're working in oils, you know, you typically would also see like a progression of the piece together. Like, if this is your method of painting, I could be wrong, right? God knows I haven't painted in so long, but like if we skip through it, you can kind of see like the pieces like building up together. Like here we go from the face is completely rendered and nothing else is. Some people do work like that. Some people do work like that. But like, what are the odds that you fit every quirk? You know, where like you do work in a digital program, but you just happen to paint like a painter, and you also conveniently happen to mess up fingers and hands a lot, but you can render to this degree. And you also happen to make the nose and ears really pink, which AI tends to do in illustrations. And you also happen to have a piece where you messed up the pole, the jacket, and the earring and only painted one earring and painted them all over again to redo it, but you posted it as a work in progress online. And you happen to have a guy in a jacket and all the buttons don't match, and the guy has a gun with no trigger, which AI tends to do. And you also happen to have a guy who's shooting archery and nothing anatomically about the bow matches up. It's just a lot of coincidences, a lot of coinky dinks that, like, you know, one-offs, again, you know, all artists make mistakes, a one-off little anatomical error, no one's gonna bat an eye. But when all of this combined together with an insane god tier level of rendering, it's getting a little funky. And then under the quote retweet, somebody asked, could you explain why your sketch shows a normal number of fingers, but the final piece has unusual ones? So here again, the sketch has 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers, and it's kind of like the thumb here. And then here in the final hand, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fingers. And the thumb is hidden, so it's actually 6 fingers, right? Zorax adds, no worries, I understand your concerns. This was my mistake. Also in the drawing, the fingers and the long thumb. I sincerely apologize for that. If you see the speed paint, you can see me adding the other finger in later. Also, I confirmed it's 5 fingers, not 6. Where is the extremely long thumb? If your hand is resting like this, right, your thumb is gonna be on the inside of your hand, not the outside. So this is not the thumb. That would mean this is the thumb. It would look like this, right? I'm trying to match the angle of the hand. I'm going the wrong way. So either you mean to tell me that you anatomically cooked it, and this whole thing is a giga-long thumb. I don't believe you. I'm not dumb. Because, come on, you're telling me you can paint like this, and you accidentally made a super long thumb? Or this is supposed to be the thumb, and then once again, you got the hand orientation wrong. Come on, man. I just don't believe that. I really don't. If it was a one-time thing, we could excuse it, but the hand errors keep happening. There's like multiple pieces with like very, very cooked hand anatomy to where it's just odd. And then another commenter for the phone clock thing asked Zorix to explain that, and they just never responded. So, September 6th, which is today, Lucid made a full thread writing the AI accusation against Zorax, backed by Twisted Fae, Tried Kiss, Eternal Star, It's Chenzilla, Wendy's, Ali Archer, I Like Carpet, sorry, that's a funny name, Atrophy, where here's an AI checker and it flagged the piece as very confidently or highly partially created by AI. So Lucid adds my claim. I'm a firm believer that Zorax is using AI to assist their works. Where Lucid writes, I value transparency above all. I am one amongst a history of accusers. There stands to reason there would be some suspicions. I have nothing to gain from the stance other than pushing for authenticity in art spaces that I admire. I believe certain mediums are not made equal. While AI can imitate a process and a product, it's a disservice to artists who've done the hard work of studying, failing, and growing. My claim. I'm a firm believer that Zorax is using AI to assist their works. I believe in some form or fashion they use generative works and overpaint the images with texture brushes or smudges to alleviate suspicion of AI usage, going as far as faking work in progress and progress photos. Additionally, they've used these doctor images for commissions, thus profiting off of what essentially is deceit. Many have come forward in my DMs, their own fans, artists, and peers, to share evidence supporting my claims. I understand there are a few this statement wouldn't matter to, dismissing the evidence as fraud. So don't take it from me, but the other qualified artists with years of experience were skeptics of the work, which are listed already in the first tweet. If you have respect for any sort of artist, don't support this behavior. I understand that people can distinguish advanced AI art or few, which is why I've tried to shed light on the situation. To be an aspiring artist, resorting to AI and passing it off as real work, I consider such actions a detriment to the craft. I like to make it known that Zorax has yet to provide evidence to suggest their work is not AI influenced, referenced, or overpainted in any way, such as a speed paint without suspicious cuts, or a full file to show workflow and creation process. They also avoid posting speed paints on Facebook, all of which is behavior common to AI artists. Here is some evidence provided. It's clear to me they have some sort of art education and not all their pieces are AI, but it becomes apparent between 2024 and 2025. You can debate this is extreme and expeditious growth, but any credible artist I know would refute that. It's almost impossible to make this kind of progress in a year. Substantial growth is shown through drafts and process work. If the artist is unable to procure transitory studies, the growth is even harder to believe. 2. Textures are easily replicated and are overpainted on top of the initial AI painting to achieve a traditional effect. Here is an AI work smudged to look like a work in progress. And this is the full kind of like work in progress piece, which again, when you take a closer look at this is just odd. The brushstrokes painted as part of the painting process. Again, kind of using this YouTube channel painting with painting portraits and oils, right? This is like the start of like a really, really choppy, blocky piece that you then build upon, right? All in one layer because it's done on canvas. This to me looks very suspicious because there's no like shape language in how the brushstrokes are blocked. It's not kind of like, oh, here's arm, this is gonna be the arm, like blah 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 blah. Here is like jacket, da da da, like some sort of shape blockage happening that you can see with this, you know? Okay, we have hair, shape of the side of the face. Oh, this is going to be the divot that forms the left eye, or like a concave that the left eye will go in. That would make sense. This is just abstract. Lucid continues, it's not common that texture is used to substitute or mimic a real painting. This can be done in real life, and it's considerably easier through digital format. For example, a video on, quote, how AI tricked the world's largest painting competition, end quote. Because gold is so structured, it's difficult for Gen AI to translate coherent forms. If this is supposedly to be an old rotary dial, there are typically 12 slots. Here they merge and diverge into a clock hand. And the buttons, that kind of design isn't usually made through human error, not with the wealth of technique shown everywhere else. Exactly, we have the mystery clock with 17 dials in it, and buttonage. There's like a little tag on the clothing, which is interesting. 4. Stylistic differences should still translate over to fundamental understandings, like anatomy, perspective, etc. There tends to be a clear disparity in sketches versus paintings. Why is that? Here is their sketch, with the anatomy being kind of like choppy, which is totally fine. It's a very like expressive sketch with like another missing finger. And then we have this full on painterly illustrations. And then once again, we have this, right? This was the chibi-esque sketch. The hand with 6 fingers is from a heavily edited speed paint they've offered as a rebuttal. However, the cuts are suspicious. The iconography is inconsistent, another flaw of AI. This was again the hands, where let me remind you, they said this is a really long thumb. On a complete side note, the oopsies, it was a really long thumb is the most absurd defense to me, personally, because like if you make the thing, oh my god, I accidentally rendered 6 fingers instead of 5, right? People will still think it's sus, but they'll be like, oh, okay, we can kind of see that line of thinking. This is a really long thumb literally makes no sense because anybody, I feel, with this level of rendering ability would never make a thumb that looks like a finger. Again, more of the detailing, right? So we can see here, this is what I was pointing out, all the freaking buttons are different. 6. While this isn't conclusive evidence, the same thumbnail and overlap suggest overpainting and photo bashing. they heavily reference without crediting the original artist. Here we can see that's looking a bit rough. This is one of Zorax's pieces, where it's kind of like half of somebody's face and the rest is like rotted away. Interesting. Lucid continues, AI testers are not foolproof. However, some of Zorax's images in isolation are picked up by the scanner. Some AI artists can still bypass this method using glazing techniques and overpainting. Their own clients are voicing skepticism around commissions priced at $500. They have not received clear files without backgrounds, sketches, or speed paints. I'll make the same point about AI details and gold. It's all incredibly unintentional and haphazard. This is not a quality you would want in character designs, where the point is to design with clarity. So here is a character, very painted. By the way, this character is missing the back foot, and that is completely true. When it comes to character design, the whole point is the design part, right? So like somebody should be able to look at your ref sheet and whatever and be able to replicate it. And if I look at this, I would not really be able to replicate it because a lot of the detailing are too fuzzy. Is this a skull at the base of the neck or is it part of the clothing detail? What is this chain connected to? Is it connected to this drapery here or this part of the draperage up here? Is there a close-up of the lantern? Because the lantern looks cool. Another character design piece. The other hand is missing. There's no full visible detailing on the back foot. A lot of just the elements in general are quite unclear. Another element or another character design that is quite unclear, where we once again have some funky looking fingers and back legs that are completely missing, as in they're like completely blacked out so the detailing is not visible. Through Zorax's fan, it was brought to my attention they've also hosted art contests with prize money. I was told by the person none of the contestants have yet to receive their prizes 8 months down the line. I can't say it with certainty, but is that not also indicative of deceptive behavior? So here's this person apologizing for the way they spoke and how they're thinking about the prize money, and they linked the contest, and here are some examples. Lucid continues, I don't fault people for being deceived. I made a pretty impulsive claim that seemed obvious to me and my peers. I hope the evidence is enough to help you make your own conclusions. I don't want anyone to harass this person. Please stick to rationale and evidence despite their defender's temperament. I believe in growth and that they can learn from this so long as they remain transparent and apologize to their clients. Thank you to the DMs and the silent support. This would not be possible without you. Another commenter adds, seeing Zorax's claim of it being oil painting technique has really irked me. So here's a breakdown from a technical standpoint. Not even how it's clearly overlaid on top. There's no clear direction or fundamental understanding. And yeah, this is exactly the point, right? Where the brush strokes for the body, which are supposed to be blocking things out, they're all like randomly wiggly and wobbly. There would be some shape language towards the blocking, so it actually makes sense. This is a TikToker, Jake Don't Draw.
On there. I've worked from this Velasquez a handful of times because there's so much to learn from it. It's one of the best portraits I think that's ever been painted. There's a total mastery of values here. That's how light or dark a shape is, and edges, how those shapes interact with each other. Velasquez is a master at both, and he makes it look so easy, which is another level of mastery. There's number 4. Get a goatee on there. That's an easy brush stroke. What I'm doing here isn't as
I think this is like a very fun concept. Only 29 brush strokes.
random as you think. I have a box. This is the front of the box in light, and here's the side of the box. And now I'm going to carve into this box another plane. Let's zoom out. I think we're actually to solve a few more big forms like the lips and chin area. 25, 26, 27 to get the silhouette and the rest of the head in there. I don't know if that was a good idea, but I think that when I zoom out, this is going to start reading really well. And here's 30. Man, I always feel like we're so close on these, but just a little bit too far away. Let's see how long that took me. 30 minutes? Oh my God. Am I either becoming a beast at painting? Or this is just really bad? Let's zoom out. I think we're actually like so close in so many ways. I just need to...
But this blockage actually makes sense because you can see each brush stroke is blocking a shape on the face, the background, the goatee, etc., so that it actually adds up to how the piece is supposed to look like. And a non-account says, that's what I thought too. Their defense being oil painting technique was odd because I've used oil painting IRL. Everyone definitely has different methods of drawing, but it was such an odd thing because they're doing their illustrations digitally. So why can't they undo it and draw out the shapes? Which is exactly my question too. At the end of the day, this is Zorax's statement. I see all the messages and concerns being raised. I need some time to put together a proper response and show my process. Please give me space. I'll address everything soon as well with the time lapse and so on. Thank you. Well, we have an update because some more information came out. This was posted September 7th, yesterday. I was at Disneyland. Lucid writes, Zorax admits to using generative AI. Thank you to Nefrith for the final nail. So there's a conversation that's happening in Discord between Zorax and Nefrith, and a lot of it's in Thai, but we can translate it. Zorax says, okay, I might actually paint over an AI image of Mikhail on that one. Mikhail is the Pope character. Nefrith says, oh, okay, well, I'll help as much as we can, offering to help Zorax fake a speed paint to make it look legitimate. Zorax says, this is what I need. Time. And Nefrith says, I think it's better to tell them to calm down and then we'll talk about it later. Zorax says, I'm the effing villain. I'm so sorry, man. But then it's not like I'm fully one because I do draw other works. But I really want everyone to stop bothering me first. Let me fake the speed paint first. I know this makes me a shitty person, but ... And Nefrith says, man, I mean, it's okay if you're actually non-drawn the other pieces too. I mean, it's fine for me. You're the one who inspired me to get my stuff together. So it's bad. So then this is the second screenshot. And it's in Thai, but if you translate it, Nephrith says, by the way, I'd like to know, which AI do you use? And Zorak says, Niji Journey? I don't know what this is. Mid Journey? Nephrith went undercover pretending to be a friend of Zorax and was discussing faking a speed paint to try to make Zorax look like a legitimate artist in the DMs. And in the DMs, Zorax admitted that they were going to try to fake a speed paint to make themselves seem legitimate. And a commenter says, this is an insane development, but I expected as much. Them trying to buy time was weird since the beginning. Any artist would be scrambling for proof of their process right away. I feel bad for those who got scammed, and so much money too. And the reason being is because Zorax offers commissions on VGen. This is a screenshot of their VGen page. Now, don't send hate to any parties, but you can see they have a bust-up character portrait they're offering from $150 plus, and historical paintings offering from $300 plus, which is why this is a big deal. A lot of times people are like, why are you calling out people who use AI? Let them do their thing. Because people will then do this and scam other people by using AI, claiming they're a legitimate artist, and people purchase the work thinking it's handmade by somebody who put their blood, sweat, and tears into it when they are scamming you, going to Midjourney, typing in a prompt, and giving you something that you didn't pay for and that you massively overpaid for because it didn't cost them anything. And you might be like, well, shouldn't it be so obvious it's AI, blah, 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 blah. A lot of people who are not artists or who don't have a trained eye to recognize AI can't tell. It's easy if you have a knowledge already of a subject like art, right? To assume that everybody can see things the way you see things. And that's just not how life works. Especially painted over AI, it makes it super hard because then there's legitimate aspects in it. So that's what makes it even harder to tell. I consider myself pretty decent at judging whether something is AI or not, but sometimes I don't want to make videos about it if I'm not fully certain, you know? So after all of this was, I guess, a DM that Zorax sent Lucid, where Zorax wrote, "Hi Lucid, I want to sincerely apologize to you. You are right to expose what I was doing. I understand why you did it, and I shouldn't have hidden or denied anything. I take full responsibility for my actions, the AI usage, the things I said in private chats, and all the mistakes I made. I know I hurt others and created distrust, and I'm truly sorry for that. I'm stepping back now to reflect, detox, and rebuild myself honestly. I'll take care of financial responsibilities, be transparent with VGen, and delete my accounts to start fresh. Thank you for being honest and doing the right thing, even if it was difficult. I hope one day I can show through my actions I have learned and changed." And Zorax posted this on their page. "Hi everyone, this is Zoe. I want to openly and sincerely apologize for recent actions and words that were inappropriate and disrespectful. I take full responsibility. I used AI as a base for coloring without being transparent about it. I know this created distrust and disappointment, and I should have been honest from the start. I will clear all outstanding payments and fully disclose everything to VGen. This is part of taking responsibility for my actions. After that, I will delete my accounts and start fresh. This isn't to run away, it's to reflect, detox, and rebuild trust through transparency and integrity. I hope this serves as a lesson to anyone considering similar actions. Please don't. The consequences are real, and the impact on trust and reputation is very serious. To everyone I've disappointed, I am truly sorry. I will focus on growth, accountability, and doing better moving forward. Thank you for reading." That is wild at the end of the day. What are your thoughts on this entire thing? People are like 50-50. Some people were like, yeah, you know, big ups to you for like owning up to your mistakes, etc. A lot of other people were like, you're all of a sudden this accountable because you got caught and you were victimizing other people and gaslighting people, being like, how dare you think it's AI? Do you think I'm that stupid to paint over AI? So very interesting. At the end of the day, I hope they can learn and be better. It sounds like they at least want to try. And I mean, while what they did is definitely not okay and very deceptive, people should be given the opportunity to like try to be better. So it just depends on their future actions from here. So it'll be interesting. I'm curious on your thoughts, and the way they were caught, wild. So the Zorax situation has concluded. Did you expect this to be the ending? Did you think they were going to make an explanation? I definitely didn't expect them to be caught in this way with a friend, in quotes, I guess, right? Essentially tricking them into admitting the fact that they did use AI. But don't send hate to any parties involved. Hopefully they can learn, improve, and be better. This one is a big plus for the convention, but there's been an uptick of people selling AI art at conventions. AI slop, which is a big boo. But this convention did a big W. This is a post that I saw about it, posted to Threads, written by Karen Hallion Art. Karen writes, "DragonCon is the best. Support human art." And it is a photo of a convention booth, except the artist is gone. And there's a big cardboard sign that says, "Vendor removed for selling AI images, hashtag art by humans." And a bunch of people, it looks like, has added extra stuff to this booth. There's some tape that says, "AI is not art in quotes. Another one says, just say no to AI slop. Another image says, all my homies hate AI. Boo this man. Hashtag art by humans. A cute little dragon, although the words are a little too small for me to read. A sick doodle. And then this big, big sign that says, El Bozo Cope Seeth. This is too funny. Conventions historically has been a space where artists can sell their art, hard work, and creations, not stupid AI slop that nobody asked for. Karen adds, for those saying it took them too long, I'd rather people do their due diligence and be as sure as possible before kicking somebody out of a show. It's a hell of a thing, and a false accusation and removal will be devastating. That's one of the things I hate about all of this. AI is poisoning the world. So a commenter by the name of War Tooth Designs adds, if anyone was wondering, it was booth A10 and the artist is OG Art Official on Instagram. It's private now. The artist allegedly was being rude AF too. A little article about it with screenshots. So there is an article. And again, let me add a disclaimer. Don't send hate to the parties involved, okay? So the article was published September 1st, today by Rich Johnson to bleedingcool.com, and the title reads, Police called on artists accused of selling AI art at DragonCon. The police were called. The vendor is named Oriana Gurez. This is public information on their own Instagram page, and it adds that DragonCon currently lacks a clear public policy addressing AI art in its artist alley or exhibition guidelines. So here are some photos where you can see this is the convention booth, and there are what looks to be police involved in kicking them out. And this is an Instagram screen cap from Sean Crystal. And here are some more photos from Dane of Monkey Minion. And here are some more videos. This is a video posted by Ink Pulp, where you can see this is their booth, and this is somebody in the background kind of taking everything down. Can you call police for this removal? I don't know, but it looks like apparently police or convention security was involved in the removal for this vendor. I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? You do need some sort of supervision to kind of kick people out. I think it's funny. Here we have Karen in the comment section commenting clap, clap, clap. And this is another user on Threads, the Caleb King, writing AI slop gets shut down and escorted out of here at DragonCon. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. So here you can see they're walking by and the booth is being removed. Oh, so it's literally police as they are removing elements of their booth. Wow, that is wild. According to the article, the event DragonCon doesn't actually have specific rules about selling AI, which I do think if conventions currently don't have rules about, hey guys, in our artist alley, AI is not allowed because you are not an artist if you generate images and claim that you made it and sell it. Okay, this is the artist in question. This is their handle, OG Art Official. They have 11,000 followers, and as of now, their page has been privated. Again, don't send hate to this party, but they have a website called OrianaGurezArt.com, and this is their website. And this is the most absurd part to me, and this is always the most absurd part. The artist can draw. Look, there are a whole bunch of paintings here, hand painted. I'm assuming by the artists themselves, right? They have more paintings being sold, original paintings. They have prints of their paintings being sold, a Star Wars collection, right? Let's take a look at the originals. Here, let me take a look at this one. This original painting, acrylic oil on canvas. They can draw. They clearly can. They clearly have the hands to create handmade artwork. Now, I haven't seen photos of what they were selling at the convention, but then to actively make the choice, hey, you know the ability that I have that I worked years to hone so that I could create beautiful works of art, I'm just gonna give that the giant old middle finger and go to Midjourney and type in a bunch of prompts to go generate stuff instead. That always is a bit absurd. It wasn't like they can't draw, because they clearly can. I think it's pretty funny too. At the bottom of the website, it reads, note that sole copyright to the associated artworks and prints are fully retained by the artist. Any unauthorized reproduction or commercial use is in violation of US copyright law. Oh, okay, I see. So you can generate stuff with AI, but we can't steal your work. Of course, we should not steal your work, but just think it's interesting to make a choice like that. And then it gets one step worse, okay? There's this post on Blue Sky posted by Lauren Walsh. Lauren writes, I love getting waitlisted for a con so that somebody can sell AI images. It's like my favorite thing. Honestly, if a booth sells AI at a con where it's banned, people should be given the option to get refunds. And then Lauren quote retweets that, adding, Okay, on the bright side, the police shut them down and they closed. If you bought anything from the A10 booth in Popped Artist Alley at DragonCon, I definitely recommend charging back your purchases. Glad to see DragonCon took this seriously. Still upset they took the place of an actual artist though. An artist like Lauren, you know? And Lauren adds, oh, and in case you feel bad about charging them back, here you go. Absolute trash person. So these are posted to Karen Hallian Art's Instagram story, and it looks to be a reshare of Ink Pulp's Instagram story. Now, this is right alleged, but it looks like a DM exchange between somebody and Oriana, where they send the screenshot where it says, OG Art Official is the AI culprit. And look what Oriana responds with. I share a screenshot of my sales this weekend, but I don't have to show it to give any explanations to you losers. This is another one, reposted by Karen Hallian, originally posted to Ink Pulp's story. And Oriana replies, you guys are sore because you don't sell shit and will be forever broke. Have fun being a broke bee. So you're just gonna be rude and make fun of all of the people that you scammed with AI generated images after getting kicked out by the police from the convention for AI images. Because I don't believe that stuff's art. Yeah, like also, exactly. What sales are you flexing? Because you were kicked out. So you didn't even get to finish selling at the convention. That's so absurd. And yeah, this is Ink Pulp's Instagram story where you can see the vendor taking down elements of the art pieces. This was the call out, right? This is the glimpse of their Instagram page before it went to private. And Ink Pulp writes, somebody wasn't happy I shared this true story. And it continues. And you can see this one. Wow. That is wild. Potentially, you might be able to charge back. I don't know the legalities of that. But I mean, if you went to an artist alley and purchased artwork assuming it was legitimate, it's definitely fraudulent if they defrauded you using AI generated images instead. So there's probably some way around it. I just feel bad for everybody who purchased things from this artist thinking it's legitimate, everybody who got scammed, and that spot that a legitimate artist could have taken to have the opportunity to make money and sell at a convention. And instead it was given to somebody who is so blatant and like cocky about the fact that they are scamming other people. So that's icky. Ew. Yeah, JC, was any of it AI art that was copyrighted characters, or was it their own work but created with AI? We don't know at the end of the day. I haven't seen images of the artwork they were selling at the convention. All we know is the convention determined that it was AI generated images, and as a result, they got kicked out for it. And that they basically admitted it, right? Because here's the thing, they have this IG exchange, these DM exchanges with what looks to be Ink Pulp, and they're really cocky, right? If it was a false accusation, then wouldn't they be like, wait, no, it was false. I didn't sell AI. I was falsely evicted. Here's my side of the story. It's none of that. They're just being a cocky a-hole in DMs. This clearly seems like an admission of guilt. It seems like, right? I don't know. I didn't see the images, but that's what it sounds like. Because anybody who is innocent would be denying it, no? It's weird, man. Ugh. There were some photos about the artwork that were circulating online that I can now show you guys. So this is Hair of Glee. And they write, the fake AI art of the vendors that were thrown out of DragonCon look really tacky. So the face of the seller is censored, but you can see in the background, look at the pieces. These are like AI generated IP. So we've got Darth Vader, Batman, Stormtrooper, the Monopoly dude, Pink Panther, with AI graffiti slapped all over it. And then it's a bit blurry, but another example of some like artwork, right? And then this is a really big close-up of the AI Rolling Stone Monopoly dude. Again, I feel like I don't need to point it out to you guys. It's like beating a dead horse, but like one thing that we can look at right now, why does Mr. Monopoly Man have 5 fingers on one hand and 4 on the other? You could argue it could be a stylistic choice for him to have 4 fingers instead of 5, but you would at least keep it consistent across the same dude, right? And not to mention, we have the Converses with this weird flower stamp logo and the shoelaces that aren't even shoelacing. This is most definitely AI. So how did they get away with doing this at DragonCon? There's this thread posted by Monkey Minion Press, and Monkey Minion writes, I was gonna wait until I slept a bit after DragonCon, but decided not to wait because there's a few different and sensationalized accounts going around about this. Originally posted to Blue Sky because Instagram and Facebook wouldn't let me post the full text. As always, FAI. Dane writes, I was next to one of the AI slop booths at DragonCon, and all I got was this lousy t-shirt. So as you may or may not know, there was a booth selling AI slop images printed on acrylic panels at DragonCon. They were in booth A10. I was in booth A11. Here's what happened from my perspective. Thursday during load-in, the folks in charge of that space, a young woman, a young man, an older lady, and an older man, showed up and were clearly displeased with the layout of the area. As they set up their pro panel walls, they began to have issues because their equipment was the wrong size. The staff came and told them to rearrange it, and they did, but not happily. As we were getting ready to leave, they had started to put up product on the walls, and the stuff they started with was, while not to my taste, clearly made by a person. The thread continues, messy paintings of pop culture characters with abstract brushstrokes and a graffiti-style text. Not my thing, but that's how art works. There's something for everyone. This is important for later. Friday, we get in and the younger woman, Oriana, and the older man are nowhere to be seen. But the young man and older woman who helped set up were there. But there was different stuff in the booth. The paintings were still there, but now so were new images of various anime characters and comic characters, Monopoly Man and Snoopy, all bloomy and blurry with weird details and various numbers of fingers. I immediately clocked it as AI, but was too busy Friday to get away from my table. To ask somebody about it, thanks DragonCon, and too tired by show close to track somebody down. I did ask the guy in charge of the booth, quote, so how many different artists do you represent? Because I see like 6 different styles here, end quote. So Dane continues, he replied with, quote, just her, the older lady's daughter and son, end quote. Right. Saturday, we came in and I tracked down a staffer and told them, quote, hey, the booth next to mine is selling AI. I know you'll have a policy against that, so I thought you'd like to know. She wrote it down and said she'd tell the AA head. Again, Saturday was crazy, but I saw the AA folks milling around and checking out the products in the booth next door, which was cool. Sorry, AA is like Artist Alley. It told me they took my observation seriously and at least investigated it. Sunday came around and I saw the Artist Alley folks around more, but the booth was still up, so I assumed they were gonna let them finish out the show and blacklist them. Not ideal, but also not the worst, given how many ways a confrontation during show hours could go sideways. Then Monday came. That morning, I got in at 9:45 and the Artist Alley folks, plus a few others and a cop, were already at the booth. The owners weren't in yet. I got set up, the show opened, and then the booth folks showed up about 15 to 30 minutes late. At which point, the Artist Alley staff descended upon them, like avenging angels. They took up positions, creating a wall across the entrance to the booth, telling attendees who stopped they were being removed and no longer available, and the scammers took down their displays and angrily packed their gear and left. The rest of the day passed without incident. Somebody, another artist I think, put a sign in the booth telling attendees and other artists that they were removed from the space for selling AI slop. And then, as often as it happens at DragonCon, it became a shrine for folks to leave offerings at. I had a lot of fun watching people walk by and pose with the empty booth and snap pics of the signs, as well as explaining to anyone who asked what happened. I spoke to the Artist Alley head after the show, and he told me that people in the booth submitted the pop art paintings for their application and were approved for those. He had no idea they were going to offer AI garbage and started working on the process for deleting them from the show as soon as he learned about it. For more details on that, I suggest reaching out to DragonCon. I thank him, and I'm doing so here again. Thank you for doing it. Confrontation at a convention isn't fun or easy. And that's a story of how one of the AI sloppists at DragonCon got bounced from the show, from the perspective of the guy next door. I apologize for any formatting, weirdness, or typos. I was posting this while the plane home was taxiing. So big dubs to Monkey Minion Press for sounding the horn, sounding the alarm about the AI seller next door, because a lot of people wouldn't have stood up to like call them out on it, because you know it jeopardizes in a way your position as well, right? Of like maybe they might kick you out for being problematic, who knows, right? Which I would argue they would be really effed up to do. But this is what sounds like how they managed to sneak in with AI works, because you have to get approved as an artist. So they submitted legitimate art, because again, when we looked at Oriana's website, there are a lot of legitimate looking pieces on there, and then replaced it with the AI works. We have a little bit of extra context from this YouTuber Inkwell. He makes amazing artwork. Like I have one of his pieces up in my kitchen, but he was vending at DragonCon. Although he was, from what he described, like away from the booth, so he didn't really get to like fully see it. So the people at the booth like produced a speed paint to show DragonCon staff. And this is allegedly the speed paint that was shown, which, okay, Inkwell says this in his video. And if you are an artist, okay, this is not a speed paint. This is a photo slideshow of a bunch of progressions of an art piece, which is very easily faked, okay? So this is why it's like a video slideshow like this is not going to be proof that your art is legitimate, because we didn't see you put brushstrokes down. We are seeing a bunch of photos smashed together in a 7-second GIF. And then also secondly, this is not indicative of the art they were selling. They were selling art that looked like this. These are two very, very different styles. So you, hypothetically, if this was a legitimate drawing of a Japanese woman with a bunch of fans floating on water with a bunch of lily pads and koi fish around her, that is not the same as this pop art graffiti piece of Monopoly Man playing an electric guitar on the cover of Rolling Stones. Not the same thing. So it's looking real weird. But that's the extra context to the Dragon Con seller, this seller, who was rightfully tossed out for AI work. And also for a little bit extra context for what Inkwell said, it was Oriana and her boyfriend when they were asked, hey, why does your art pieces look like they were made by a whole bunch of different people, right? They were like, at first they were like, oh, well, some of it's my art, some's my boyfriend's art. And then later they were like, oh, it's like a art collective, you know? Some is like Oriana's parents are also selling their art here, which is why it looks like it's made by 4 different people. Because it was, but they're all like part of our group, blah, 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 blah. Made by, I don't know, 2 different people, okay? You got freaking you got Midjourney, you got, what other like generative AI image softwares are there? Like, I don't know, freaking the Google, the Google Vimo thing is like videos, but you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's made by me and AI, okay? And that already is illegal according to Dragon Con's TOS because proxy sellers are not allowed, and selling somebody else's artwork that you didn't make is proxy selling. So that is the end of it. Well, they got booted out, rightfully so, but it still sucks that a legitimate artist wasn't able to vend in that spot because that spot was given to somebody who was deliberately trying to scam Dragon Con by submitting artwork and then taking the legitimate artwork, I guess, down and putting AI work to sell. That's crazy. What are your thoughts on the entire Dragon Con situation? Do you think it was fair for them to be thrown out for AI illustrations? Do you think it wasn't due to the fact that Dragon Con didn't really explicitly state that in their contract? And again, don't send hate to the artists involved. They clearly can draw, they have hands, but to choose to not do that is an interesting choice. And with the snarky responses on top of that. Anyways, if you like this video, I appreciate it if you like and subscribe. Don't forget to check me out on Etsy. I have digital art there for streamers and creators like emotes, overlays, and stuff. I also have a coffee with free resources for streamers and creators, and I stream on Twitch 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays at 6 p.m. PST. Hope to catch you guys there or in another video. Peace.